Dragon Ball Lao Su is the god of destruction. Chapter 81-100. Chapter 81. Dare to move my things. Several surviving Saiyans were caught in a looting. However, the strength of each one is not as strong as that of Darley's, and the fruits on the tree do not add up to 10, so almost everyone only got 1 fruit, and Darley's directly grabbed 4. This time, Del's, who was originally the last in strength, turned over and became the master. After some ideological and political education, Darley's also formulated his own rules. Of course, the basic political line is to take the order of King Dareth as the first goal. By the way, Darley's, isn't this a tree? If it is a tree, there will be seeds. Can we plant him on another planet? At this moment, one of his subordinates was wise and wanted to make friends with the new leader, and said this thing that the other people didn't want to say. Why didn't I think of it? Ha ha ha, not bad. If that's the case, we'll look for it separately. If we find it, we'll bring it to me directly. If anyone dares to hide it, I'll kill anyone. Darl's vicious words did not frighten the others, on the contrary. Several people showed a knowing smile. In this case, I found the seeds and directly boarded the spaceship and left. In this case, no matter how powerful Darley's was, it would be useless. As for handing it over, don't even think about it. Weiss, do you think that people who grow up like this are a little bit heartless? Bardaka's son Wukong, and even this Darley's is still like this. The god of destruction looked at the Saiyans who were looking for their own in the void, and couldn't help but complain. Ho 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 ho, isn't the god of destruction also lacking in heart? Whis smiled and laughed at the god of destruction, which instantly made the god of destruction black. But then the god of destruction pulled out a sneer. Yeah, I'm also lacking in heart, but someone is good, and it's just being confessed by someone. I don't know if I'll die of laughter if Vados finds out. The god of destruction's sneering words made Whis look ugly. HMPH, I'm ignoring you. When Weston was like an angry little daughter-in-law, she turned her head and sulked at the god of destruction. As the trees gradually withered away, the area they searched became larger and larger. At this moment, one of the Saiyans suddenly remembered something, and immediately blasted a big hole towards the trunk of the big tree, and then rushed in. Others who heard the voice turned their heads and saw this man's movements. Hey, he's bored and has nothing to do with tree trunks. Dales, who is not very intelligent, looked at it and asked suspiciously. Damn it, why didn't we think that the seeds of the tree should be in the middle of the trunk? It was the person who wanted to flatter him again, and the few people who had rushed over sneakily wanted to grab the head of the speaker and rub it on the ground. At this time, Dals suddenly realized that it was like this. Immediately, Darley's also quickly made a big hole in the tree trunk, and the whole person rushed in. And a new round of searches has begun. An hour later, the sharp-mouthed monkey gill Saiyan who started flattering every day finally found a seed that exuded a stream of light after digging open a large tree trunk. Master God of Destruction, your seeds are about to be robbed, won't you go and get them back? Weiss smiled and looked at the God of Destruction to see what it wanted to do. A bunch of rubbish, let them grab it and see if anything fun happens. God of Destruction laughed evilly. Stealing one's own things, there is no such thing, that is, if the great priest wants to rob himself, he must weigh his own strength. And at this time, the man with the sharp-mouthed monkey gills began to think carefully while holding the seeds. Originally, he said these words just to want Dals to restrain others, because with his strength, even if he gets the seeds, others will snatch them away. But now who knows that they will really get the seed? Just when he was extremely anxious, a flash of light flashed in his mind. Since the fruit can be eaten, why can't the seeds be? If I eat the seeds, the power I can get will definitely be countless times stronger than the fruit, and it will be time for me to dominate the universe. The sharp-mouthed Saiyan grinned and put the seed into his mouth. He had predicted that he would step on the faces of several other people and reach the pinnacle of his life in the future. Thorn. At this moment, a tearing sound came from the Saiyan's body, and at the same time, the incomparable pain caused the Saiyan to suddenly kneel on the ground. Ah, damn, how can it hurt so much? A shrill scream echoed through the tree trunks for dozens of miles. Several other people who heard the sound quickly blasted out big holes and rushed in this direction. When the Dales and the others came here, the scene in front of them sent chills down their spines. I saw that the body of the person with the sharp-mouthed monkey gills had become as thin as a stick, and a branch of a tree had pierced out of his body. And there was not a trace of blood flowing from his body. In the end, the man with the sharp-mouthed monkey gills died after letting out a desperate roar. And his body was also absorbed by the seeds of the nerve tree, and slowly disappeared above the trunk. And this tiny nerve tree seemed to lose power after the man died, and finally slowly landed on the trunk. The small trees that had grown up also withered. Humph! How dare you do a little trick in front of me? I don't know how to live or die. Darlays smiled disdainfully, then walked to the dead tree and took the seeds into his hands. A few people around sighed in annoyance. If they found this seed by themselves, this would definitely not be the case. Lord God of Destruction, it seems that the good show is over. See if it's time to take back your things. Whis reminded with a smile, but he also wondered why he could see Saiyans everywhere. Yeah, it's better to keep this thing in your own hands. The God of Destruction nodded slightly and then put it on his hand. On the ground, the seeds in Darl's hands were suddenly pulled by a huge force, and Darlays rose into the sky. What's going on? Darlays couldn't believe it, holding the treasure that he made a fortune in his hand. The God of Destruction ignored him, and the huge force on the seed brought Darlays directly to him. Who are you? Why didn't I see you just now? What happened to the seeds? Did you make the hell out of it? Darlays looked at the two people in strange clothes in front of him with a little vigilance, but his hand holding the seed was not at all, and he did not reduce his strength. The God of Destruction and the two directly ignored Dals. At this time, crack! Ah! A thunderbolt suddenly shot out from the seed, and all of a sudden, Darlays hit the ground black and fell to the ground. Let's go, Weiss, there's nothing left here. The God of Destruction said something indifferently, and then a teleport disappeared. Weiss also glanced at Dales, who fell to the ground, and left with the God of Destruction. Chapter 83, Vegeta arrives. In the endless starry sky, 3 circular spaceships are moving fast in the universe. Didi, we are still 1,236,590,000 miles away from the Earth. The estimated time of arrival is 3 minutes. The life support device is turned off. Please prepare for the landing as soon as possible. After an electronic sound ended, the masks originally placed on the faces of the 3 people in the spaceship were slowly removed. Are you there? This distance is a bit long. The young man in the lead slowly took off his mask and said calmly. Ha 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 ha, Prince, this time, it took a lot of time to find such a low-level warrior. I think it must be a waste of time. With our current strength, do we still need such a low-level combat power? This young man is the prince. At this time, it has been 3 years since Piccolo was killed. That is, 5 years before Raditz came to Earth in the original book. A year ago, because of the God of Destruction policy, they spread all over the universe, causing the overall strength of the universe to rise, making them who have been fighting for a long time and have not had much time to cultivate gradually unable to keep up with the development of the times. Because their battle is not the same as Bardock, who is on the edge of life and death. Their battle is to come to someone else's planet and directly create an artificial moon, transform into a gorilla, and then crush it all the way. There is little help for strength. Although the 3 princes were much stronger than when they first appeared in the original novels, even the prince's combat power only reached the level of 20,000. Nappa is 8,000, Raditz often almost died because of his strength, and all strengths reached 5,000. This time they came to Earth for only one purpose, and that was to take Kakarot away. After all, no matter how bad the lower-level warriors were, they should have reached a combat power of about 1,000 at the age of 18. After the transformation, it can also reach 10,000 combat power, and some small planets can also be won by one person. HMPH, Nappa, so what if you're a high-level warrior, you're not necessarily much stronger than me. Raditz in the other spaceship snorted coldly. Oh, how much more powerful, so do you want us to compete? Nappa's face also became cold, and he gave Raditz a disdainful smile. Okay, here we are. The prince's cold words made the two suddenly shut up and dare not say a word. As soon as the prince's words were over, the three spaceships turned into three huge fireballs and smashed towards the ground. Boom boom boom. The powerful shock wave suddenly smashed three huge potholes into the ground. At this moment, people all over the world were attracted by these three powerful chi. It's so powerful, and it's different from Earth people, it should be aliens. Could it be that the Earth is about to be invaded? I wonder if Mr. Satan can defeat the other party. Yeah, although Mr. Satan seems to have only a little strength of anger, the person who can defeat the great demon King Piccolo must be much stronger than these aliens. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. In the era of martial arts practice by all people, a slightly large momentum will attract the attention of those who are keenly aware. The arrival of the three princes has made people on Earth have a little bit of vigilance. Let me see what the strongest combat power is on this planet. Nappa sneered and clicked on his combat effectiveness tester. DDD, combat power filter is turned on. Display the highest combat power mode is turned on. DDD, maximum combat power, 5,000 inches. Nappa was instantly stunned when he saw the combat power displayed above. 5,000. Isn't this planet just the lowest planet? How can the highest combat power be so high? Nappa's words made the prince and Raditz, who had no expressions around them, stunned. Raditz, look at the average combat power. The prince's expression became solemn. After all, if the maximum combat power was 5,000, the average combat power would not be much lower. Raditz nodded and pressed his combat effectiveness tester. DD, average combat power, 125 inches. Suddenly, the few people who heard this voice breathed a sigh of relief. If the average combat power reaches more than 500, it means that there are at least tens of thousands of people on this planet with a combat power of over 1,000. In this case, there is only one way for them to conquer this week, and that is to destroy the planet together. Go and see this most powerful person first and see if it will be Kakarot. After the prince finished speaking, Nappa and Raditz looked at each other, although they did not believe that Kakarot could not grow to 5,000 combat power on such a planet. But they will not refuse the prince's decision. And just when the three of them came to the earth, the gods in the distant heaven who were always paying attention to the actions on the ground had already noticed it. Has a tail. It seems to be the same Saiyans as Florence and Goku, but their breath seems to be very evil. God's strength at this time is still the same as in the original book, and there is not much improvement, because after the separation of the Nameks into two, not only the strength has dropped a lot, but also the talent has dropped countless times. Piccolo, the second generation of Piccolo, is a brand new individual. Although it has flaws, it is not obvious, so it can keep up with Goku and the others. God, the one whose strength is at the head seems to be Wukong, and he doesn't have much confidence in defeating the other party, and they are now looking for Kaylin and Turtle Immortal. I don't know if there will be any danger this time. Bobo carried his hands behind his back, and his eyes revealed a wise light. Alas, it's really dangerous this time if Florence can't interfere at will. The god of heaven glanced at the princes who had almost arrived at the Immortal Island, and couldn't help sighing. Wukong will be out in an hour, but I don't know if it will be too late. Saying that, Bobo glanced at the spiritual time house deep in the palace. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Aia, turtle immortal, they are here, how can you handle it? Kaylin felt the prince who was getting closer and closer to him and couldn't help swallowing. Although he is confident that he can beat Raditz, the most powerful, but Nappa and the prince are far more powerful than him. Enla, your master, can I lose the chain at a critical moment? I just don't know if there are any pretty girls in it. The turtle immortal smiled lewdly, and at the same time a trace of crystal saliva flowed from the corner of his mouth. You are really hopeless, immortal turtle, and I don't know how you got on the throne of Martial Dao Grandmaster. Klein's words did not embarrass the turtle immortal in the slightest. Boom boom boom. At this moment, 3 silver-white rays of light appeared in front of the two in an instant. Chapter 84. Vegeta, what a beautiful woman. Dead bald head, you are the strongest on earth. The prince's cold eyes looked at Klein, who was on the immortal island of Turtle, who was facing a formidable enemy. And his words made Krillin stunned. You must be mistaken, I'm just a rookie, how can I be the most powerful person on earth? Keelan knew that his strength met Tianjin Fan, Wukong and others were hanged and beaten, so he didn't dare to talk big. HMPH, still very modest. But today I'm here to ask you something. If you say it, I may be able to spare your life. The prince said disdainfully. The two Nappa behind him sneered. If you want to ask, ask. If you want to fight, you can fight. Where does all this nonsense come from? Do you dare to bully my old man and dare to beat someone? Immortal Turtle immediately exploded when he heard the prince's words. He had heard such nonsense a lot, so how could he believe it? And said that the turtle fairy directly took off the overweight tortoise shell that Florence gave him on his back. With a wave of his hand, the tortoise shell smashed towards the 3 princes like a missile. The old man still dares to be mad. Nappa sneered, stepped forward and reached out his hand to catch the turtle shell. Suddenly, the expression of the prince who had no expression changed. Nappa, be careful, quote. It's a pity that his words were too late. The tortoise shell had already crossed the space and smashed into Nappa's hand with terrifying power. Crack. After the sound of broken bones, Nappa's complexion changed dramatically, and at the same time, he quickly moved aside to avoid the impact of the turtle shell. Unfortunately, the time was too late, the turtle shell smashed directly on his right shoulder, and there was another sound of bone shattering. PFF'd. A mouthful of blood spurted out of Nappa's mouth, and then Nappa was carried by the turtle shell and flew into the distance. Boom. An earth-shattering loud noise came from a distance, and I saw that the sea level had been smashed into a huge vortex. After a few minutes, the whirlpool slowly returned to calm. Damn old man, he's so powerful, fortunately I didn't go up and try my best. Raditz swallowed, secretly rejoicing in his heart. The prince clicked his combat effectiveness tester with an ugly face. DDDD, combat power, 3000 inches. A combat power so low that the prince could not believe appeared on his combat power tester. 3000 combat power can almost kill Nappa with foreign objects. What's going on? The prince's face was gloomy. What? Why don't you go and see if your comrade is dead? Immortal Turtle looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction, and then asked the two princes in a deep voice. HMPH, a rubbish, if you die, you will die. My purpose here is to find a man named Kakarot, do you know him? The prince glanced disdainfully at Nappa, who was sinking to the bottom in the distance, and asked the Immortal Turtle about his intentions. Kakarot. Immortal Turtle frowned, as if he had heard of it somewhere. Isn't Kakarot the same as Goku? I heard Florence called Goku when I called him Kakarot, so you are looking for him. What are you looking for her for? Because Krillin often goes out and walks, he knows more about some things, and Florence calls Goku Kakarot every day. So Krillin also remembered Goku's Saiyan name. You know him. That's best, tell me where they are. The prince frowned. From the tone of Klein and the others, it could be seen that Kakarot was actually in the company of the Earthlings and seemed to be doing well, which made the prince who looked down on the Earthlings frown slightly from the beginning. It's in the western capital, you can go to him directly. By the way, the Florence I just said seems to be your Saiyan. You can go and see if you are interested, they are all in the north western capital. Krillin smiled stupidly, looking like he had no scheming at all, and looked like he was just being deceived by the prince. On the other hand, the immortal turtle on the side held a moment of silence for the prince and the others. After all, if the three of them go to Florence for trouble, the other party will have an excuse to take action, and it will depend on the fate of the three of them whether they live or die. What? There are Saiyans. What's going on? The only Saiyans who came to Earth in the Saiyan records are Kakarot. Who is this Florence? Raditz asked Krillin in surprise. How do I know that they all have tails anyway? Although they are female, they should all be the same. Kalen helplessly spread his hands and said that he didn't know anything. Raditz wanted to ask more, but was stopped by the prince. Let's go and see. Female Saiyan. Interesting. After the prince sneered, he soared into the sky and flew in the direction Krillin said. Raditz, on the other hand, rushed to the bottom of the sea and scooped up Nappa, who was about to die. Although I hate you, I still need your strength now. You can't just die like this. Raditz sneered, then took out the remote control of the spacecraft from Nappa's arms and pressed the autopilot mode. A few seconds later, a streamer appeared in front of Raditz. Oh, this spaceship looks so advanced, it can still drive automatically, I don't know if it's fast. Krillin's unfamiliar appearance made Raditz smile disdain. Aboriginals are natives, no matter how strong they are. After throwing Nappa into the spaceship, Raditz pressed the light on the spaceship. Boom! After a huge roar, the spaceship disappeared above the Earth in an instant and flew towards the headquarters of the Emperor of the Universe. After finishing it, Raditz took a deep look at Krillin, then rose to the sky and chased after the prince. Turtle Immortals, you said they will be killed, but I have heard that Florence doesn't like Saiyans very much. Krillin began to worry about the prince they had just met. The Turtle Immortal shook his head helplessly when he heard it. Even you don't know, you are the one who peeped at Florence's bath, you don't know that. Klein's exclamation made the turtle fairy blushed. Hey, don't frame me. Although I think about peeping at Florence every day, it's just my own fantasy. How dare I put it into practice? If I really dared to do this, I'd already be dead. While Keelan and Turtle Immortal were arguing, the prince and Raditz had already appeared in the western capital. The most powerful person here has a combat power of about 300. It seems that this so-called Florence should be able to hide his strength just like that old man. Raditz said solemnly after searching the surrounding aura. The prince didn't say much, just looked around on the street and then locked his eyes on a propaganda poster. Go to Magnum Capsules. After selecting the target, the two came directly to the door of Abu's house. You, still here, my brother. Just when the two of them came to the door of the company, suddenly, a wonderful sound like the ding of spring water came down from the sky. The two looked up, and the prince at the head was immediately stunned. What a beautiful woman. End of this chapter. Asterisk. Chapter 85, The Gate of the Demon Realm. Who is your brother? I don't remember having a younger sister like you. The prince snorted coldly, but his eyes were irresistibly fixed on Florence's face. Just you, also worthy of being my brother. The prince known as Saiyan has fallen to this point, and there is no one else. Florence's disdainful words made the prince look ugly, but he didn't refute the other party for some reason. And Florence's words made Raditz frown slightly. You mean I'm your brother? Are you Kakarot? No, Kakarot is a man. Who are you? Neither of Raditz had it. The other thought it was a man. After all, this face was a woman's, and it was one of the billions. Yes, I am not Kakarot, my name is Florence and my father is Bardock. Florence looked at Raditz, her face slowly a little nostalgic. How similar Bardock looked when he turned into a Super 3 and Raditz in front of him. When did Bardock have a child like you again? You should be the same age as Kakarot. Raditz also looked cold when he was named Bardock. You must know that Bardock did not fulfill any responsibility as a father during his childhood. No, you can't imagine my age, but now is not the time to talk about it. I already know the purpose of your coming here, but you can't take it with you with Kakarot. Florence walked over to the opposite side of the two, and said indifferently. Oh, can't take it away. Why, is it just you? Your battle is only 1,000. What qualifications do you have to stop us? The prince sneered. No, you misunderstood. In fact, Kakarot's strength is not as weak as you think, and my combat power is not 1,000. Florence always had a smile on her face, but after she finished speaking, he began to emit a green energy glow. Suddenly, the combat effectiveness tester above the eyes of the prince and Raditz began to scream hurriedly. In an instant, the two combat effectiveness testers exploded. And the last string of numbers displayed on the combat effectiveness tester remained in their minds. Combat strength. 50,000 inches. That's right, 50,000, because their combat effectiveness tester of this model is the latest model developed in the past 2 years, but it can only detect 50,000 combat effectiveness. Impossible. How is this possible? Absolutely impossible must be wrong. The prince roared in disbelief. Nothing is impossible. By the way, the purpose of my coming to you is not to show off, nor to recognize Raditz as your relative. I just came to remind you that this planet is the planet I guard. You better give it to you. My peace of mind, or else. Quote. Speaking of this, Florence's face suddenly turned cold, and a huge momentum suddenly overwhelmed the two princes. Kakarot is not here. He is in the heavens, and he will find you in an hour, so you should wait a while and then talk about it. After Florence finished speaking, she walked towards Abu's house. The prince and Raditz were left with an ugly face. How about the prince? Raditz asked the prince suspiciously. HMPH, let's go and see other more powerful energy reactions first. Maybe we can find Kakarot directly. If it doesn't work, we can force him to show up. To ask the prince to wait here obediently for an hour is simply a fool's dream, even if Florence is much stronger than himself. After speaking, the prince summoned his spaceship and took out the spare combat effectiveness tester inside. Didi, the combat power screening begins, and the second combat power is selected. 3000 combat power is located in the south. This combat power belongs to the immortal turtle, and the prince directly reselects it. Didi has abnormal energy, combat power, 8000 inches. Suddenly a huge momentum erupted from the far west. What a powerful force. Walk over and take a look. The prince's complexion changed. 8000's strength has far exceeded his expectations. A planet with such strength is not something he can attack. Boom. The two suddenly turned into the sky and flew towards the new Chi. On the other side, major TV stations also began to report on this alien invasion. Urgent notice. This station reporter got the latest notice. Our savior Mr. Satan announced that he is about to take action to drive away the intruder this time. See the latest report below. Just when all the TV stations were having a heated discussion, a TV station suddenly connected to all the TV channels. In the picture, the young Satan was standing in front of the mansion of his own family with a proud look. It's you, the abominable alien, who dares to come to my earth to be wild, and I, Mr. Satan, will let you know what regret is. I, Satan, hereby solemnly promise that the aliens will be driven out of the earth within 3 days. Satan's oath made all the audience in front of the TV boil. However, at this time, Satan was unable to express his bitterness. After so many years of martial arts recovery, he was no longer the wrestler who knew nothing back then. At the beginning, he thought that Wukong and the others were just some special effects, but when he was bored and practiced according to the exercises issued by the Valkyrie, he realized that it was really bad luck that he didn't die. Damn it, I can't go now if I don't go. If I don't go, I will definitely be drowned in saliva. No, I can't hold back even for the sake of my unborn child. Satan nervously put on his gold belt and embarked on his own journey to death. In a desert full of death, a huge iron gate stands there. The origin of the iron gate can be traced back to the beginning of the Earth's birth. No one knows how it came to be, but this huge iron gate has stood there since ancient times, and it has gone through millions of years without a trace of decay. Crack. Today, the door suddenly opened, and black energy permeated from the door, slowly dyeing the surrounding sky dark. Chang. After a crisp jingle sound, a gorgeous giant sword shot out from the gate, inserted right on the edge of the gate, and blocked the gate that was about to be closed again. At this moment, a figure wearing a white cloak slowly walked out of the gate. After this figure walked out of the gate, countless black figures rushed out from behind. Human world, I'm back. Chapter 86, Piccolo beaten. The person who came out of the gate of the devil world was the son of the great demon King Piccolo that was spit out before his death, that is, the second-generation devil Piccolo Great Demon King. Of course his name is Big 2. The newly born Piccolo came to the demon gate on Earth in the memory of Piccolo. Relying on the powerful strength left by Piccolo, Piccolo quickly took over the gates of the devil. Defeated soldiers. Although I don't know the difference between these demons and the demons in the current demon world, their strength is rubbish. Piccolo can only train these rookie demons while cultivating by himself. After 3 years, Piccolo's heartbroken group of demons finally recovered. Today is the day my Piccolo reappears in the human world. Piccolo sneered and waved his hand, and countless demons flew out in all directions in an instant, spreading to the entire earth. These demons killed anyone they saw, grabbed everything they could, and swept the surrounding cities in just a few minutes. Suddenly at this moment, Piccolo, who was originally there, closed his eyes and rested, suddenly opened his eyes. What a powerful chi, not the chi of Earth people, could it be aliens? Piccolo looked at the prince and Raditz flying towards him in the distance with an ugly expression. Boom. After a huge sonic boom, the prince and Raditz appeared in front of Piccolo with a sneer. Huh, it's actually a Namekian. There really is something in such a remote place. The prince glanced at Piccolo suspiciously and recognized the identity of the other party at a glance. After all, as one of the generals under the Emperor of the Universe, he still knows a little bit about Slagu, the nemesis of the Emperor of the Universe. Namex. Piccolo was shocked. From his old father's inherited memory, he learned that his father really came to this world on an unknown ghost before he separated from God. In the past, my father didn't think much about it when he was young, but now that he thinks about it, he is really an alien species. Damn, that Lao Su is also an alien friend. Why is the Earth so unfriendly? Piccolo spat secretly. He has been bullied since he was born, and his only father was beaten up before he was born. I don't know what you have to do with me. Piccolo took a deep breath, eased his emotions, and asked the prince with a dignified expression, but he selectively ignored a rookie like Raditz. We came to you just to ask if you know the whereabouts of Kakarot, who seems to be named Goku on Earth. The prince sneered. He generally doesn't like to talk, but after he came to this planet, he had to come forward. Who let Nappa, this stupid dick, be solved with a tortoise shell, and Raditz and himself didn't quite deal with it, so it would be better to expect him to say it himself. Sun Wukong, what are you doing to him? Piccolo's face instantly turned black, especially at this time when he suddenly found the tail behind the buttocks of the prince and Raditz, and even took on a fighting stance. Humph, it seems that you and Kakarot still have a grudge. From Piccolo's expression, the prince can see Piccolo's hatred of Goku. And being hated by a man with more than 8,000 combat power has not died, it seems that Kakarot's strength is not to be underestimated. Looks like it's a good deal to scrap a Nappa who has no potential and get a Kakarot with good potential. The prince smiled slightly. You don't have to worry, we are not good people who fight against injustice, you just need to tell Kakarot's whereabouts and we will find him. The prince didn't bother to speak nonsense directly about his purpose. Piccolo breathed a sigh of relief. Kakarot, if you want to find it, go to the celestial realm where the earth gods live. He should be there. Although Piccolo didn't know what the two of them were fighting, he still told each other the coordinates of the heaven. Well, to thank you, I'll give you a present. The prince smiled and nodded, then a sneer appeared on his face. Piccolo immediately felt a threatening omen. He hurriedly flew towards the gate of the demon world. Prince Raditz sneered when they met. The vigilance is good. It's a pity, the sky cannon. A dazzling white light wave instantly swept across the sky, pulled the earth out of a huge crack of dozens of kilometers, and rushed into the starry sky. HMPH, a piece of garbage. Although the prince who has been suffocating since he came to this planet doesn't say it, he can't do it and doesn't care. After all, Nappa, his right-hand man, is now abolished, and he is still despised in front of Florence. Wait, how could he, the Saiyan prince, have such thoughts? The prince shook his head irritably, and then rushed towards the sky according to the coordinates given by Piccolo. HMPH, Prince. You are uneasy. Raditz sneered, then chased after the prince. And in the huge ravine created by the prince's sky-high cannon, a mass of constantly wriggling flesh was rapidly changing inside. At the same time, the little robot that had been like a fly came to this lump of flesh, collected a trace of flesh and blood, and flew away. And this lump of meat finally returned to Piccolo's original appearance after wriggling for a few minutes. Damn dead monkeys, don't let you fall into my hands, or I will definitely kill you. Piccolo roared, and then returned to the gate of the demon world, and began to recover the lost energy. On the other side, Bobo in the heavens also looked worriedly at the god who had just recovered from a weak state. You must know that Piccolo was almost killed just now, and the gods almost died. Fortunately, Piccolo survived in the end. God, are you feeling better? Bobo looked at the weak god in front of him worriedly. It's okay, this little thing is nothing compared to waiting for something to happen. Tianshan wiped a cold sweat and shook his head solemnly. Yeah, I don't know if Wukong will come out. Bobo glanced at the direction of the spiritual time house worriedly. And at this moment, two figures with huge aura landed in front of the heavenly god palace rapidly. The prince was speechless when he saw the god in front of him. How come there are still Namekians? Is this planet Namek? The prince's sarcastic words made the gods frown slightly, but the situation was stronger than that of people, and the gods didn't say much. What do you two come to my heaven for? Although I know the intention of the other party, I still have to delay for a while. Kakarot, I just want to see Kakarot now, I know he's here, if you don't say anything, I'll destroy this place. The prince didn't know the meaning of the gods, and he directly stated his purpose without patience. The gods were a little embarrassed. I don't know what you are looking for from me. Just when the gods didn't know how to answer, a sunny voice came from the palace. Chapter 87. Want to kill my man. Also ask me if I can answer it. Wukong's tall and straight figure slowly walked out of the temple with an inexplicable frequency of footsteps. With this frequency, Raditz's heartbeat instantly became the same as this frequency, and the blood in his body began to scramble randomly because of the change in his heartbeat. PFF'd. A mouthful of old blood spurted out from Raditz's mouth, and the prince on the side shrank violently when he saw this scene. In the end, what's going on? The prince was frightened by Goku's appearance. This kind of thing is not something that can be done by strength alone. Goku, who was halfway there, was slightly taken aback when he saw Raditz vomiting blood. Is this exercise given by Shaolun so powerful? But it seems that I can't take it anymore. Wukong touched his head in embarrassment, and his words suddenly made Raditz, who had vomited old blood and was in a bad mood, vomited blood again. Wukong, you are here, the two of them seem to have something to look for you, let's have a good chat. Although Goku's aura was aimed at Raditz and the prince, it still more or less affected Tenjin and Bobo. It's easy to say that Bobo, as a person who originally had a combat power of over 1,000, has grown to nearly 10,000 combat power after years of growth, but the gods have not increased much because of their talents. The aura that Wukong radiated at will has made his heart almost burst. Oh, thank you God for your hard work, leave the rest to me. Wukong smiled at the god. After that, Bobo supported the god and returned to the temple. Immediately, Wukong's face suddenly became serious, and he looked at the two princes. You guys, what are you doing to me? This is the second time he has asked, and the tone of the question this time has been very different. The somewhat vigilant prince subconsciously tapped the combat effectiveness tester above his eyes. DDDD, combat power, 15,000. The displayed combat power made the prince slightly stunned. The combat power was not very low, but it did not reach the level that the prince imagined. It seems that what happened just now is just the reason for the exercises, he said. The relieved prince gestured to Raditz. Understanding, Raditz wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and spoke, and then a wave of remarks that refreshed Wukong's three views came out of Raditz's mouth. Hearing that, Wukong's face turned cold. So you want me to destroy other planets like you do? When Wukong said this, his face was very bad. That's right, that's it, the mission of our Saiyans is this. I think you should also know the difference between you and others. Goku was slightly taken aback by Raditz's words, but then his expression turned grim again. HMPH, I'm not a Saiyan Kakarot, I'm Sun Wukong, an Earthman. I will never agree to what you said. If you want to fight, then come. Wukong was too lazy to say anything. His childhood experience taught him what it means to be different from each other, and it would be futile to say more. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect you to be a naive person, Kakarot. You can deny your identity, but the tale behind you can't deny it. We Saiyans will transform on the night of the full moon. Gorilla, you can't deny that. Goku's expression changed drastically at Raditz's sneer. What? Become a gorilla monster? In an instant, scenes of encounters from childhood flooded into Wukong's mind. I still remember that after seeing the full moon night for the first time, Gohan, who was dying the next day, told himself that he could not come out on the full moon night in the future. And the second time I came out on the full moon night, I lost my grandfather forever. It turns out that I am the gorilla monster, which means that I killed my grandfather. Wukong's lost soul made the prince sneer. Sure enough, the weak just like to be sentimental. Looking at Raditz, who was trying to convince his younger brother with disdain, the prince seemed to remember the expression on the day when his father sent him to the Emperor of the Universe. Emotions are something, my Saiyan prince will never need it. And just when he was thinking wildly, Wukong on the other side had slowly firmed his expression. My grandfather taught me from a young age that I can't be a human being, and the earth is kind to me. Even if I am a Saiyan, so what, I will always be Sun Wukong, and always the grandson of Sun Wuhan. Thinking of this, Goku showed a sunny smile. Isn't it, Raditz? Since you are my brother, then I will tell you clearly. Want me to destroy other people's homes, or you want to destroy the peace of the earth, unless you step over my corpse? Wukong's firm words made Raditz stunned for a while. He seemed to see his father's figure when he was fighting for the lower-level warriors. HMPH, rubbish is rubbish. Since this is so, in order to prevent you from damaging my reputation as a Saiyan, I will execute you on behalf of the Prince Planet. The prince slowly flew up, and a huge momentum spurted out of his body. Do you want to start? But this is not a good place to start. Dare to come with me. Wukong said to the prince provocatively with his head. HMPH, do you want to choose your own cemetery? Yes, let's go. The prince nodded with a cold expression, and the three of them soared into the sky and flew towards the desert above the ground. Since the recovery of martial arts, one after another martial arts holy places have appeared in front of the world. For example, people are falling from the Kalen Tower almost every day, and of course, more and more people have climbed up. Even the heavens have appeared in front of the world. Since Xiao Wukong inserted the golden hoop stick, people have climbed the heavens every year. Of course, only King Cheba has succeeded so far. Based on this situation, the actions of the three princes were constantly monitored by satellites in the sky. The whole world knows the whereabouts of the three people. Satan, who had released his rhetoric at the beginning, stepped on the plane to die with a smile on his face while everyone was chasing the ducks onto the shelves. Of course, Satan at this time had already cursed in his heart for an unknown number of times. However, the calamity that he caused, he had to swallow even with tears in his eyes. At the same time, in a luxurious palace in the distant flaming mountains, a heroic girl was practicing non-stop in the training room. Kiki, big news. Come and see. Just after Kiki kicked the 100th special sandbag, a rude voice came from the living room. And Chi-Chi was just stunned, but didn't respond. After putting away the 101 sandbags for today, she will continue to practice. Kiki, it's really a big deal. I saw Wukong. At this moment, the rude voice came again, and when Kiki heard it, she disappeared into the training room in an instant, as if struck by lightning. The Bull Demon King, who wanted to scream again, was startled by the sudden appearance of Kiki. You're here, you see this on TV. The Bull Demon King wiped his frightened cold sweat and then pointed to the three figures on the TV and explained to Chi-Chi what happened. The man who wants to kill me. Also see if I agree. Chapter 88. Do you want to disappear without letting me play games? In the different dimension of the entire King realm, the figure of the god of destruction was sitting cross-legged in a void space at this time. At this time, different threads of law were wrapped around him. There is the law of time, the law of breaking words, and the law of life. Among them, the largest number is the law of destruction, followed by the law of life, but although there are not many laws of time and space, it is stubbornly suppressing the largest number of laws of destruction. At this time, the god of destruction's space-time law has already comprehended 99 times the level of the normal law. Doubling the space-time law will stop time. At this time, the time and space laws of the god of destruction nearly 100 times can already reverse time at will. Although it is not possible to travel freely like wearing a space-time ring, it is possible to travel within 1,000 or 2,000 years. However, as the god of destruction explored the laws of time and space in this world, an important fact was discovered. That is, the laws of time and space in this world are imprinted with the laws of this world, which means that if you break the shackles of this world created by King Quan, and go out to other universes, perhaps all the laws that you have comprehended will be suppressed, or even not at all. There will be no more effect. But one thing is certain, the reason for this is that the laws that you comprehend are not perfect. The 100-fold time-space law seems to be the second stage time-space law that Weiss said, but it will take a long time to accumulate to break through this speed. The god of destruction opened his eyes regretfully. I don't know how many years have passed since I retreated here. It has been many years in the outside world, and I still have no clue about the last doubling of the laws of time and space. Looking at this kind of death retreat, it's not very useful. The god of destruction sighed and slowly stood up. Goo. Just then, the god of destruction let out a growl in his stomach. Oh, I really feel sorry for me. I was under pressure that I shouldn't have at such a young age. The god of destruction rubbed his stomach coquettishly, and then his fingertips were slightly touched, and a purple light instantly appeared, punching a huge pothole in the space. Then he walked out in 2 steps. You're out. Just when the god of destruction had just come out, a gentle voice appeared beside the god of destruction. Taking a closer look, it was actually the great priest standing beside him. Yeah, I thought I could break through, but it's still a little bit worse. The god of destruction sighed. As for whether or not the Grand Priest will know his strength by saying this does not exist. The strength of the Grand Priest can no longer be seen at this time. It's good to gain something. By the way, haven't you been comprehending the energy of time and space recently? This is a little experience of my angel family. You can take a look first. Speaking of which, the Great Priest took out a brilliant book, and upon seeing this book, the god of destruction's eyes shrank violently. What a huge fluctuation of the laws of time and space. Seeing the god of destruction, the Great Priest smiled. This book is called the Book of Time and Space. It is a book that my angel family has recorded since its existence. It records all the types of time and space energies that my angel family has comprehended over thousands of trillions of years, how to operate, etc. Only the Grand Priest has the right to watch. The High Priest's words made the god of destruction frown. Only the Great Priest can read it, so the Great Priest will not be afraid of violating the ancestral teaching for me. The god of destruction needs this book very much, but if it comes down like this, I owe the Great Priest a huge favor out of thin air. The god of destruction has already seen from the laws of time and space flowing above. If he can watch it for thousands of years, he will definitely be able to break through to the second stage of time and space energy. Ha ha ha, you don't have to worry, now I have the final say in the angel family. Zhu Xuan is not something worth learning from for me. The High Priest seemed to have a little contempt when he mentioned his ancestors. After listening to the words of the High Priest, what would the god of destruction say? Okay, I have accepted the wishes of the Great Priest, and if there is anything that needs my help in the future, just say it. If you have the advantage and don't take the bastard, besides, when it comes time to really need your own help, if it is convenient for you or not, the god of destruction will not be embarrassed to refuse. After accepting the Book of Time and Space, the god of destruction bid farewell to the Grand Priest. Of course, he also asked what King Quan was doing recently, but found that this little thing has been playing boredly every day since he got his own Kingless Glory game. The two anxious guards almost went to the alien space to find the god of destruction desperately. Fortunately, the current god of destruction is no longer the same god of destruction that he used to be, and the two guards cannot move with just one look. Oh, you two, King Quan and I have a good relationship and you are not happy anymore. It seems that you two don't want King Quan to be happy. The god of destruction said indifferently, but King Quan, who was playing games happily on the side, paused. Yeah, god of destruction is right, do you two want to disappear? Quan Wang's small face instantly darkened. The two guards who couldn't speak suddenly changed their faces in fear, and hurriedly knelt in front of King Quan and kowtowed. HMPH, the god of destruction is my good friend. If you trouble him again, I will destroy you. I'll be fine without you anyway. King Quan's arrogant words caused the two guards to nod again and again. By the way, god of destruction, did you bring me something good this time? King Jian nodded and hurriedly asked the god of destruction in anticipation. Ah, this is it. The god of destruction couldn't wait to punch himself in the mouth. Why did he come to King Quan Wang? Looking at the inflatable doll-like god of destruction, he began to think about what could attract the attention of the other party. By the way, this is another cartoon, called SpongeBob SquarePants, for you to watch. God of Destruction directly took out a cover CD with a small yellow square and a pink starfish. Wow, what a cute little square, said. King Quan hurriedly took this CD and ran to watch it before the DVD given by the God of Destruction, and immediately forgot everything about the God of Destruction to the back of your mind. I don't know how long this kid can stay in peace. The God of Destruction wiped his sweat. In fact, King Quan seems to have a good relationship with him now, but if he doesn't have much stock for him, the final result is that he will be destroyed. Forget it, go back and have a good rest. I don't know what this kid Wes has done to the seventh universe. The God of Destruction laughed, then broke open the space, and stepped in directly. Chapter 89. Is this what you call hard work? In the 7th universe, there is a reason for the final settlement time in a year, in the realm of the King of the Gods. Lord Weiss, can you ask for mercy from the God of Destruction? This universe has already been destroyed by the 9th level planet. If this continues, the 7th universe will really collapse. The old king of the world said to Weiss in front of him with a sad face. The recovery of martial arts in the past few years has caused all the living planets in the 7th universe to suffer. Only a few of the remaining planets are intact, and most of them are land that has been destroyed by more than half. Is that so? I'm sorry, I don't need to ask the Lord of Destruction for this. I can make the decision. When that day comes, the Lord of Destruction will have a way to restore it to the original state. You don't have to be too careful. Weiss's calm voice made the two Kikings look ugly. Their innate duty is to protect the peace of the universe. Unfortunately, this time the one who destroyed the universe was an existence that they could never afford to offend. Alas, since the God of Destruction has already made his own decision, we have nothing to say. The old Kaiwang god sighed, and the depraved appearance of the whole person made the god Jibit on the side couldn't help clenching his fists. Damn, is it true that our realm kings and gods have no time to come forward? Why are we also the supreme god of the universe, but the gap is so big? At this moment, the god of Jabit finally had a little bit of coveting for the powerful strength. He has begun to be dissatisfied with his current state. Are you angry? It was like a cold voice that reached the ears of God Jabit. Jabit's body shook, and an unstoppable excitement burst out of his mind. Yes, I'm not reconciled, I'm really not reconciled. Why is it also the defender of the cosmic order? The God of Destruction can be far above our heads. The sudden roar of the god Jabit made the old Kaiwang god on the side change greatly, and even Weiss frowned. God Jabit, what are you talking about? Hurry up and apologize to Lord Weiss. The old realm god hurriedly urged. But this time, Jabit was stubborn and didn't mean to apologize at all. Lord Weiss, he is still young and ignorant, so please forgive him. The old god of the realm had no choice but to be a peacemaker. Before Weiss could finish speaking, a figure suddenly cut through the space and appeared in front of the three of them. It's okay, I asked him what he said, and it's his business how he answers. The god of Destruction, who had just arrived, stared at the god of Destruction in front of him with pale golden pupils with his hands behind his back. The old Kaiwang god, who wanted to say something else, immediately put away his words when he saw the appearance of the god of Destruction. You don't think it's fair, don't you? A wicked smile appeared on the corner of the god of Destruction's mouth. This smile made Jabit's heart panic, and he didn't have the firm look just now. Do you think you've worked hard, but why isn't the god of Destruction as powerful, is it? The questioning of the god of Destruction made Jabit even more flustered. He was afraid that the god of Destruction would destroy himself, because now the god of Destruction had removed the life link, and it was very simple to kill himself. You don't have to be afraid. I know your thoughts. You are just unwilling, but have you thought about the reason? The god of Destruction wasn't here to find fault this time, and a small king god wasn't enough to make him worry so much. Since that's the case, I'll show you how I came here in the past 1,000 years. And how did you come here in the past 1,000 years? Looking at the god of Jabit, who looked like a quail, the god of Destruction pointed his finger in the air, and then a message passed into God's mind. In the picture is the endless training of the god of Destruction in the king's realm. The god of Destruction would fall asleep only after he was exhausted and exhausted every time. And after waking up, it's endless training. This is just a small fragment of my practice. The place above is the alien dimension of the whole king's realm. The gravity is 1 billion times that of ordinary planets, and it is 10 million times that of the realm of kings. The god of Destruction explained with his hands behind his back, while the old Kaiwang god, who didn't know what to do, was full of worry as he watched the drastic change in the face of the god of Destruction. And after the god of Destruction practiced and walked roughly once, the screen suddenly changed and came to the realm of the King of Gods. In the picture, God Jabbat is doing push-ups, sit-ups, and ordinary punches and kicks. On the other hand, the old god of the realm was leisurely watching colored novels. And this amount of exercise is a world apart from the god of destruction's nail-clipping. And Jabbat is still crying. You see, this is the gap. In the future, instead of complaining here, it is better to do more. The weak have no right to speak. You should know this better than me. After the god of destruction finished speaking lightly, he ignored God Jabbat, whose face changed drastically, but turned around and asked Whis, who was beside him, about the growth level of the universe in the past few years. And the god of Jabbat is standing in the same place in despair. God Jabbat, you should grow up too. The old realm king sighed with emotion, and looked at the god of destruction in front of him with a little gratitude. So in this universe, only nearly 1,000th of life planets are intact. The god of destruction frowned, not expecting so many planets to be destroyed in just a few years. Yes, god of destruction, but the effect is still there. The average combat power of the surviving planets has exceeded 100 points of combat power, which has far exceeded the average level of other universes. Weiss explained to the god of destruction with a smile. Oh, that's it. Then keep going. After all, other universes have already begun to develop rapidly. By the way, has the Earth ever been destroyed? The god of destruction suddenly remembered the Earth, a planet that is relatively difficult to develop in the universe. After all, the population base is there. Earth. It has been destroyed by me 3 times, but after each time they will use Dragon Balls to restore the Earth, so the Earth is still intact now, but one thing is certain. That is, the development speed of the Earth is already ranked among the top few in the universe, and the average combat power has reached more than 200. Quote. Although I don't know why the god of destruction cares so much about Earth, Whis still showed little mercy on Judgment Day. Well, I see, let's go and see how the Earth is doing lately. A rare smile appeared on the corner of the god of destruction's mouth, and then, under the congratulations of the old Kaiwang god and Jabit, the two disappeared into the Kaiwang god realm. Old ancestor, I implore you to give me special training. Come with the highest standard, I will definitely be able to hold on. Jabbat said solemnly to the old realm king. Have you decided? The old realm king asked solemnly. Yes, it's decided. Okay, if that's the case, you won't regret it. Space Department Ultimate Magic, Alien Space comes. After the old Kaiwang god recited a spell, the god Jabbat instantly disappeared into the Kaiwang god realm. Chapter 90, The Mighty Raditz. Seeing the disappearing god Jabbat, the old Kaiwang god sighed. God Jabbat, when you come out, you will know that cultivation is really not easy. I think that when the core star still had the nerve tree, the real-world king was extremely powerful, and the strongest first universe real-world king in history took 10 golden fruits at the time. The fighting power is that the god of destruction in the universe at that time was not his opponent, and he was finally killed by the king of the ancient demon world because of the turmoil in the ancient times. After that, the neural tree disappeared and traces of it disappeared. Maybe the current king god knows that there are not many such things as the neural tree. Without the nerve tree, it's really too difficult for the Kaiwang god to cultivate more than the god of destruction. God Jabe, it depends on your fortune. After the old realm king sighed, he returned to his reclining chair and looked at the little yellow book again. On the other side, the god of destruction and Weiss turned into a ray of light and rushed towards the earth. Sun Wukong and the prince on earth have fought together. A mere low-level warrior wants to provoke my Saiyan prince, he just doesn't know what to do. In a desert, the prince roared and punched Wukong in the face, and suddenly a mouthful of blood spurted out of Wukong's mouth. Ha ha ha, what about a Saiyan prince? You'll never know what it's like to have a partner. The corner of Wukong's mouth sneered, and his head slammed into the prince's face. Bang! After a muffled sound, the prince screamed and flew backwards. After abruptly stopping his figure, Prince O felt a trace of warm blood dripping from his nostrils. The prince was stunned after wiping his nose. Damn, lowly inferior warrior, Dare to make me bleed, I want you to die. The prince rushed towards Wukong furiously. HMPH, whoever is louder is stronger. Wukong wiped the blood left on his forehead and rushed towards the prince as well. Boom boom boom. Countless collision sounds spread throughout the sky, and countless potholes appeared on the ground one by one because of the aftermath of the battle between the two. Raditz, who was watching the fierce battle between the two not far away, was extremely shocked at this time. My stupid younger brother has such great strength, the feeling is exactly the same as that of my father. Raditz's arms were folded in front of his chest, with a calm look, but his unpredictable expression could not hide his inner excitement. The junior soldier came out of Dad, and now there is Kakarot. It turns out that my junior soldier can really surpass the elite soldier. Dad's dream back then really wasn't vain. Raditz looked at the battle in front of him, as if he felt a new door opening to him. DDD, there is a powerful energy approaching. Just when Raditz was watching happily, he suddenly heard an alarm sound coming from his earphones. The combat power is 3000. Could it be that old bald head? Raditz looked in the opposite direction where the energy was flying. I saw a young girl in a slim martial arts uniform flying in her direction. Well, female, there are still such powerful women on this earth. Raditz frowned. Under his surprised gaze, the girl slowly landed near him. Are you the alien who invaded the earth? Gigi pointed at Raditz and said with a cold expression. Hearing this sentence, Raditz laughed immediately. It turned out that he was here to trouble Zero himself. Ha ha ha, you're right, I'm here to invade the earth, what? You want to kill me, kid? Raditz's contemptuous words instantly turned Kiki's face ugly. Where is Sun Wukong? Kiki didn't say much, and asked Raditz directly. Sun Wukong, Kakarot, he's over there, but it looks like he won't live long. Raditz glanced at Sun Wukong who was fighting with the prince in the distance, and there was a trace of untraceable worry in his eyes. And Kiki hurriedly looked in the direction Raditz was looking at. It just so happened that at this time Wukong was really at a disadvantage and was beaten by the prince and vomited blood. Goku! Chi-Chi screamed anxiously, and then wanted to rush up to help Wukong, but unfortunately a tall figure stopped in front of him instantly. This is a fight between Kakarot and the prince, and I won't allow anyone to help. Raditz's serious words made Kiki's face turn cold. Are you going to let it or not? A powerful aura erupted from Chi-Chi's body. Don't think about it, I won't let it go. Raditz saw that he couldn't stop it, so he took a fighting stance. When Kiki saw it, she snorted and rushed up to fight with Raditz. And her combat power was much lower than that of Raditz, and she was quickly defeated. Bang! After a loud crash, Kiki was kicked upside down by Raditz and flew into a rock and couldn't get up again. HMPH, even with this little strength, I want to intervene in the battle between the two of them. Let's go back to practice for a few more years. Raditz sneered, then ignored Kiki, and looked at Wukong and the prince, who were already fighting fiercely in the sky. Suddenly, Raditz felt a hint of death, and in shock, he hurriedly moved towards the open space beside him. Qigong Cannon. Suddenly a loud shout erupted from the sky. Boom! After an earth-shattering loud noise, an abyss with a side length of tens of meters appeared in the area where Raditz was standing. After the gravel fell, it took half a minute to make the sound of landing. It's such a powerful destructive force, the people who hate this planet actually hide their aura. Raditz looked at the incomparably large abyss in front of him with an ugly expression, and then he turned his head into the sky. I saw a three-eyed man in a green martial arts uniform standing in the sky looking at him with a cold expression. Dumpling, you give the fairy beans to that little girl, and this person is handed over to me. Tianjin Fan, who had just arrived, gave an order to the dumplings and then slowly flew down to the ground. Be careful, Tianjin. Dumpling glanced worriedly at Tianjin Rice, and hurriedly flew towards Chi-Chi, who fainted among the rocks. Next, let me fight with you. Tianjin Fan took off his shirt and said to Raditz seriously. Oh, 3 eyes. Interesting, since you want to die, I'll do it for you. Raditz sneered and squeezed his fists and wanted to walk towards Tianjin Fan. Magic Light Killing Cannon. PFF'd. Chapter 91. Vegeta. Defeat. Magic Light Killing Cannon. PFF'd. Raditz, who was originally disdainful, suddenly changed his face, and at the same time spurted a large mouthful of blood. A spiral-shaped beam of light shot out from his chest and shot toward the universe. Raditz looked at the bowl-sized wound on his chest in disbelief. Ha ha ha, that's what happened to the big devil who dared to offend me, Saiyan. Humph, it's just a bunch of wild monkeys. Piccolo's figure flew down from the sky and looked at Raditz in front of him with disdain. Not far away, Tianjin Rice took a deep breath. Bic, you're not dead yet. Everyone knew what Bic did a few years ago. The world thought he was killed by Wukong, but now he actually appeared in front of him alive. No, you are not the great demon King Piccolo, who are you? But after taking a closer look at the Piccolo in front of him, Tianjin Fan suddenly shook his head. This person is not Piccolo at all. He can see that Piccolo in front of him does not have the evil spirit of the great devil King Piccolo. HMPH. I don't need to explain this to you. If you have this skill, you might as well think about how you can help Sun Wukong. Piccolo snorted coldly and walked in front of Raditz. How is it? I didn't expect it. Piccolo sneered and mocked Raditz, who was slowly falling to the ground. Cough cough cough. Unexpectedly, you are not dead, ha ha ha, the prince is too careless. Raditz laughed miserably, then turned his eyes to the two princes and Goku who were fighting fiercely in the sky. Piccolo also raised his head and looked towards the two people in the sky, then a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. You can go in peace, I will help you send the two of them down to meet you. After speaking, Piccolo condensed an air bomb in his hand and aimed it at Raditz. Raditz ignored Piccolo's actions, and just stared blankly at Sun Wukong in the sky. It's so similar to Kakarot, ha ha ha, I wonder if Bardock will regret it after knowing your growth. Raditz smiled slightly, then slowly closed his eyes. Seeing Raditz exuding a lifeless air, Piccolo snorted disdainfully. I want to give you a ride, but it seems that I don't need it anymore. After speaking, Piccolo slowly dissipated the air bomb from his hand. However, at this time, a change in the sky occurred, and the two people who were originally evenly matched suddenly burst into a terrifying momentum. Death Cannon. The prince raised his hands towards the sky, and at the same time a dazzling white light was emitted from his hands. Sun Wukong spun around in the air for a few times and landed on a big rock not far away. Seeing the prince's movement, he quickly pulled his hands behind his back. Turtle School Qigong. The two looked at each other from a distance, and the momentum exuding from their bodies became stronger and stronger. Drink. Ha! A roar broke out from the two mouths at the same time, and two dazzling rays of light rushed towards each other instantly. Boom! In an instant, the two Qigongs collided instantly, and a terrifying air wave erupted from the collision place, knocking a few people from Tianjin Rice not far away, knocking them out hundreds of meters. The dumpling holding Chi-Chi almost accidentally dropped Chi-Chi. The only ones present were Piccolo who could stand firmly on the ground and look at the Monkey King and the prince who were facing the waves in the sky with an ugly look. Wukong, who didn't hide his strength anymore, now has a combat power of 30,000, which is not much worse than that of a prince. Damn Monkey King, can't I avenge my father again? The purpose of Piccolo's birth is to avenge his father Piccolo the Great Demon King, which is the meaning of his existence, but the situation at this time caught him off guard. Is that the only way to go? Piccolo snorted coldly with an ugly face. But after looking at the two people who burst out with terror in the sky, Piccolo decided in an instant. Sun Wukong must die. Thinking of this, he soared into the sky and flew towards the gate of the demon world. What on earth is this guy Piccolo going to do? Tianjin Fan on the side heard Piccolo's last words, but originally thought he was going to go up and make trouble, but when he saw Piccolo, he flew up and left without saying a word. Tianjin, what should we do? Dumpling asked. You take this girl to the Immortal Island first. I'm here to find an opportunity to help Wukong. Tianjin Fan felt that Piccolo would come back. Although he couldn't beat Piccolo, he could still stop him. Okay, then be careful, I'll go first. After that, Dumpling left the battlefield carrying Chi-Chi. And the battle in the sky has also reached a white-hot stage. The slightly weaker Sun Wukong finally couldn't hold on anymore. Qigong Cannon. Suddenly, the blue veins all over Tianjin Fan burst out, and he shot a Qigong cannon at the prince in the sky. The prince who was caught off guard was hit all at once. And this one contains almost all the spirits of Tianjin Fan, and the power of the Qigong cannon is still very huge. The prince's clothes were shattered in one fell swoop. And it was the Dao Qigong cannon that instantly deflected the prince's attack. Great opportunity, quote. Under the ground, Wukong's eyes burst into a light, and then the turtle Qigong in his hand burst into a stronger momentum than before. The turtle school Qigong instantly broke through the block of the Qigong cannon and charged towards the prince. What? The prince's complexion changed drastically and he quickly erected a shield to cover his body inside. Boom. The turtle school Qigong instantly hit the prince's body. Crack. A shattering sound came from above the prince's protective cover. Damn Kakarot. After the prince burst out with a roar, the whole person was instantly drowned by the turtle Qigong. Wukong sighed in relief when he saw the disappearing prince. PFF'd. A mouthful of old blood spurted out of Wukong's mouth. Goku, are you alright? When Tianjin Fan saw Wukong's appearance, he flew over and put a fairy bean into Wukong's mouth. Ah, it's fine, thanks to you, Tianjin Fan, or I'll be the one who died this time. After Wukong swallowed the fairy bean, he felt that the power in his body rose a little bit. Then he said gratefully to Tianjin Rice. It's okay, I'm very happy to be able to help, after all, the other party is such a powerful person. Tianjin Fan smiled slightly. Bang! At this moment, the sound of an object falling to the ground came from not far away, which immediately made the two of them relaxed. Chapter 92, What? Are you Beerus-sama? What sound? Tianjin Fan and Wukong were startled by the sudden sound and walked over quickly. What? He's not dead yet. Tianjin Fan looked at the prince at the bottom of the pit with an ugly face, only to see that the prince had passed out in a coma at this time. The clothes on his body had been completely shattered, and there was no trace of good flesh on his body. Tianjin Rice, do you still want fairy beans? Wukong looked at the prince lying at the bottom of the pit and suddenly turned his head and asked Tianjin Fan. Huh, also, what's the matter? Isn't your wound healed? Tianjin Fan asked Wukong in confusion, took out a fairy bean from his pocket and threw it to Wukong. Thanks for Tianjin Rice. Wukong smiled slightly, then took the fairy bean and walked towards the still dead prince, and then said the fairy bean and put it in his mouth. Wukong, what are you doing? Tianjin Fan was shocked and hurriedly shouted at Sun Wukong. Haha, I'm sorry, Tianjin Fan. Although this person is said to be an enemy, he doesn't seem to hurt the people of the earth, so I don't think he is that bad either. Wukong smiled awkwardly, and Tianjin Fan frowned. Alas, you can do it yourself. Now that the fairy beans have been fed in, what else can Tianjin Rice say? Crack. Wukong helped the prince crush the fairy beans with his hands and slowly stood up and took a few steps back. The wound on the prince, who was still alive and dead on the ground, began to recover frantically, and it completely recovered in just a few seconds. Suddenly, the prince opened his eyes, and a bolt of lightning shot out of his eyes. Suddenly, the king stood up. Boom! A huge pit was smashed out from the ground. Cough, cough, this brother is so angry. Sun Wukong, who was choked with tears, scratched his head in embarrassment. Be careful of Wukong, this kid is always the enemy. After Tianjin Fan warned Wukong, he quickly put on a fighting stance. Sun Wukong also looked grimly at the prince in the sky. I saw the prince at this time looking at his intact body in disbelief. He clearly remembered that he was hit by Kakarot's qigong, and the incomparable pain was still fresh in his memory. Did you save me? The prince looked at the two Sun Wukong above the ground with ugly expressions. HMPH, don't count me, it's all Goku's doing, if I were, I'd have killed you already. Tianjin Fan snorted with disdain, and his words made the prince's face flash with surprise. Why? The prince asked Sun Wukong in a deep voice. Fuck, I said, are you annoying? If someone saves you, you can just walk away honestly, but you still have to ask them why. You still want to think about them. At this moment, an impatient voice came from the sky. And the prince's original ugly expression suddenly became even more ugly when he heard this voice. Who is it? Get out of here. Before the prince could scold, he found that his neck was being pinched tightly by a purple hand, and the strength of his whole body suddenly disappeared without a trace. Wes, do you remember how the last person who disrespected me died? It was the god of destruction who hid and watched for a long time, and finally came forward because he couldn't stand the nonsense of a few people. Ho ha ho ho, the last person. That would be a miserable death. His limbs were chopped off and he was thrown into an ant nest and gnawed on it for 4 or 5 days before he died. Oops, it's really pitiful to think about it now. After listening to Weiss' words, let alone other people or the god of destruction, it's chilling to hear, don't you just want to pretend? You've made me such a pervert. However, the god of destruction, who had already spoken, couldn't slap his face, so he could only grin at the prince. This scene suddenly scared the prince's soul into death. If he was so fooled by this pervert, he might as well die. Yeah, isn't this the god of destruction? Why did you come back? I haven't seen you for many years. I'm Sun Wukong, the one who looked for Dragon Ball together before. When Wukong saw that the person who came was the god of destruction, he immediately greeted the other party happily. Okay, I know it's you. Who would be so stupid out of you and heal their enemies? I really don't know how your brain has survived until now. The god of destruction hurriedly interrupted Wukong's self-introduction, and his disdainful words made Wukong shake his head in embarrassment. Who is Wukong? Seeing that the god of destruction squeezed the prince in his hand, Tianjin Fan, who was beside him, was immediately frightened, but fortunately it was his own. But Florence's master. It is said to be the highest god of destruction in the universe, the god of destruction, although I don't know what it is, but I heard that Florence even connected one of his fingers. Don't stop. Goku's introduction made the prince who was pinched by the god of destruction suddenly widen his eyes. God of destruction. This is the existence that my father has repeatedly told me not to provoke. BB, god of destruction, I didn't know it was you. I am the prince of the Prince Planet. You should have met my father. The prince tried his best to explain his identity to the god of destruction. If he was the emperor of the universe, he would not have the slightest intention, but for the god of destruction, his body began to tremble uncontrollably. Prince King, is that the one who gave me the food from 10 planets? This kid has a future, but his ambitions are a little bigger. After speaking, the god of destruction sneered and threw the prince out with a wave of his hand. Boom boom boom. The mountains shattered under the impact of the prince. Sun Wukong and Tianjin Fan, who watched this scene, broke out in cold sweat. A few seconds later, the prince, who was covered in scars again, came to the god of destruction tremblingly. Thank you, god of destruction, for your kindness of not killing. The prince was very fortunate at this time. The horror of the god of destruction was what he had heard from his father since he was a child. Go away, if you want to invade other people's planets in the future, you must first inquire about the strength of the other party. After speaking lightly to the prince, the god of destruction directly issued an order to evict guests. Yes, I will pay attention in the future. Wiping the cold sweat, the prince gave Sun Wukong a complicated look, and wanted to leave here. Wait a minute, take him with you and go. Suddenly, a soft woman slowly floated down from the sky, and the woman was still holding the recovered Raditz's body in her hands. Isn't that Raditz? Why is he dizzy? Wukong asked suspiciously. On the other hand, Tianjin Fan explained that Piccolo had attacked Raditz. Take him and leave the Earth. If you don't fight under the banner of battle, the Earth still welcomes you. With a slight wave of Florence's jade hand, Raditz immediately flew towards the prince. Chapter 93. The Last Days of Satan. The prince, on the other hand, caught Raditz, who was flying over in a daze, then glanced at Florence in a complicated way, and flew towards the direction where his spaceship was parked with a cold sweat. As for whether the prince will leave obediently, Wukong and the others are not worried at all. Even if the god of destruction is present, he will not dare to make trouble again even if he is given hundreds of courage. I've seen God of Destruction. I've seen Wes-sama. Florence flew to the god of destruction and saluted. You're doing a good job, the Earth is okay now. God of Destruction gave Florence a rare compliment. Thank you for your praise, God of Destruction, that's what I should do. Florence was slightly excited. After all, this was the first time the god of destruction had praised herself. As for the past, she had selectively forgotten about it. Well, but the stage of the Earth is a little small, and now I have some subordinates in the universe, but these people are not people who keep their own feet. From today onwards, you will follow the current mode of managing the Earth to help me take good care of them. These people, otherwise, the current situation of the seventh universe is not optimistic. What the god of destruction said is of course deceiving. The current average strength of the seventh universe can be said to have reached the top level of the 12 universes. Because the weak planet has been almost broken by Weiss, the only planet left now is the elite among the elites. Okay, I'm leaving tomorrow. Florence nodded. She was almost tired of staying in such a remote part of the Earth. Ooh. At this time, a helicopter suddenly flew over in the sky. The god of destruction and several people raised their heads and looked into the sky, just to find Satan in the plane. HMPH, it's actually this same guy. When Tianjin Fan looked at Satan in the sky, his face suddenly became ugly. Satan, what is he doing here? Florence frowned. Satan took the credit of Wukong and the others for himself and used it to defraud money. Under the contemptuous eyes of several people, Satan's plane slowly landed. Satan jumped out of the plane, who was being driven by the duck. Woo! The plane took off a second after Satan had just landed and left quickly. Fuck, are you so eager for me to die? Satan scolded and then smiled awkwardly at Wukong and the others. Hey, Lord Valkyrie, hello, the villain is Satan, you should have heard of me. Satan's slightly proud words made the frowns of Florence and the others wrinkle again. They heard of you. Of course I've heard of you, but I don't know if you know who the person in front of you is. Florence sneered and pointed to Sun Wukong beside him. Satan was stunned for a moment, and then quickly turned his eyes to Wukong. Who is this person? Satan looked at Wukong suspiciously, but found that Wukong was a little familiar, but he couldn't remember the identity of the other party. What? You made so much money with the credit for defeating the great demon King Piccolo, and now you don't even know who they are. Tianjin Fan snorted coldly, instantly reminding Satan that Wukong was the kid who participated in the world's #1 martial arts conference back then. Satan's expression changed immediately, as if someone had been caught stealing something. What? It's actually you. Satan said to Wukong tremblingly, but Wukong didn't have these honors, he just smiled at Satan. Hello. Goku's words caused Satan's complexion to change greatly again. It's such a calm expression, it's not good that this is not going to kill me, right? Satan suddenly remembered the boss of Haishahui on the TV of the gangster, and he killed the man in a light-hearted manner. Trembling with fright, he hurriedly rushed in front of Goku. Just when everyone was still wondering what this old boy wanted to do. Plop. Satan suddenly knelt down towards several people. My lords. Satan used to have eyes but didn't know Taishan. If I knew that you killed the great demon King Piccolo, I would never dare to take credit for it, you would treat me as a fart and let me go. Satan kowtowed like pounding garlic, causing the god of destruction and his group to feel a chill. This old boy is really a goddamn talent. The god of destruction smiled evilly, and then gestured to Wes, who was beside him. Weiss nodded knowingly, and then said that the scepter tapped in the void. A second later, the entire Earth's TV program began to broadcast this passage that Satan had just said to Goku. The World Television Administration has abolished the power of 9 bulls and 2 tigers, but found that they could not stop the spread of this video at all. On the street, the pedestrians looked at the picture on the giant screen above the building and suddenly became uneasy. Isn't this Mr. Satan? What happened? How could he kowtow to so many people? You are stupid. I didn't see Lord Valkyrie. Hey, listen, there is a voice. The exclamations came to an abrupt end as the voices came out, and everyone concentrated on watching Satan's behavior on the big screen and their own TV. Quote, If I knew that you killed the great demon King Piccolo, I would never dare to take credit for it. You would treat me as a fart and let me go. Satan's fearful words immediately set off a huge wave in the hearts of people all over the world. What? Mr. Satan is actually a liar, and there is someone else who killed the great demon King Piccolo. Hey, aren't these youngsters Wu Tian's apprentice and he Shanren's apprentice? Satan and the others are the real saviors just now. What's going on? It goes without saying that I thought that Satan was unreliable at the beginning, and a guy who even felt his anger last year was able to defeat the great demon King Piccolo. Damn it, I just remembered that my son was sent to the Satan Martial Arts Academy for training. No wonder the strength has progressed so slowly in the past 2 years. It turns out that we were all deceived. One after another angry scolding suddenly burst out from the crowd, and one after another silhouette, regardless of the city's no-fly order, rose into the sky one by one and flew past Satan's luxurious residence. A few minutes later, Satan's luxurious residence and his martial arts gyms around the world were destroyed. The money in the bank account is also seized by the state and used to distribute it to the poor. In short, the current Satan is not only infamous, but even his assets have changed from a wealthy country to a poor man. And also face the risk of imprisonment. And all of this happened in a matter of minutes, before Satan didn't know that he was already ruined. Okay, I don't want to blame you. We don't know each other, and the things you said are useless to me. You can take it. Goku's indifferent words made the people around him couldn't help shaking their heads. Chapter 94, Tragic Life. Wukong, did you condone him by doing this? Tianjin Fan said with a dark face to Wukong, who was indifferent. Haha, there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway, I don't want to deal with those people every day, just let him go. Wukong shook his head, and his words brought a smug smile on Satan's face. Ha, now I have been authorized to do it by my deity. It seems that I don't need to be afraid in the future. Satan thought proudly in his heart. Well, there is nothing to do now, should we go too? The god of destruction hit him. Satan is like this. It can be said that he does not cry without seeing the coffin. This time, the god of destruction exposes him just to see what this kid will do after being exposed and ruined. Yes, the god of destruction has been here for such a long time, and you don't want to treat yourself to something delicious. Do you want the earth to exist? Whis, who was beside him, quickly agreed. You're a chicken, you can say it yourself if you want to eat it, and you even brought me with you. The god of destruction glared at Whis, who had no consciousness at all. But Whis' words shocked Florence and Goku. Yes, we're too dull, so let's go now. Florence hurriedly grabbed Tianjin Fan and hugged Kiki's dumplings and Wukong, and disappeared in front of Satan and the god of destruction with a teleportation. Disappeared. Satan's face changed slightly with fright, and he thought he had seen a ghost. The god of destruction on the side looked at Satan, who had less than 100 combat power. Your name is Satan. The indifferent voice of the god of destruction made Satan froze. Yes, the villain is. Don't you know what the Lord has ordered? How can Satan dare to neglect the god of destruction, but even the Valkyrie is a humble existence. What kind of thing is he? Martial arts can't be improved by relying on these sidelines. Money is an external thing after all, you can do it yourself. The cold words of the god of destruction shook Satan's spirit. Just when Satan wanted to ask again, the god of destruction and whiz disappeared. And Satan also stood there and fell into contemplation. Lord God of destruction, it seems that you still have high expectations for Satan. During the time-space tunnel transmission, Whis smiled and said to the god of destruction. Haha, I've thought about it too much, I just want to see if this kid will come to his senses. I hope that his ability to break through 1,000 in the future should be the pinnacle. The god of destruction said disdainfully, in fact, he really didn't have much disgust for Satan, but he just couldn't get used to this kid making money in the name of others every day. In the past life, the god of destruction hated this kind of person the most. Ah, don't worry about it for now, I just don't know what delicious food Florence will make for us. It's been a long time since I've eaten what she cooks. The look of anticipation on Wes' face made the god of destruction look forward to it. Although Florence is a bit gay, the dishes are still good. The two disappeared in the space-time tunnel in an instant. In the desert, Satan still stood there with a contemplative look on his face. Why hasn't the plane come yet? After sitting in place for several hours, Satan finally got impatient, took out his mobile phone and called the helicopter pilot. Hey, when did you arrive, kid? I've been waiting for you for hours. Satan cursed directly at the other end of the arc as soon as he answered the phone. Huh, Satan, are you still alive? The surprised words of the driver opposite made Satan's face darken. Are you very unhappy that Lao Su is alive? The words of Satan gritted his teeth, slightly embarrassed the driver. Didn't you get caught by the person who killed Piccolo? I thought you were killed for taking credit for someone else's work. The driver's helpless words hit Satan's heart like a bolt from the blue. You know this so well, are you spying on me? Satan roared at the driver anxiously, if this matter spreads out to Young, he will be torn apart by the public. So you don't know yet, let me tell you. The driver slowly told him all about Satan's secrets, and also said that Satan's house had been demolished. What? How could this be? Satan stood there in despair. By the way, your plane was also destroyed, that is, I was unemployed. If you want to come back, just come back by yourself. I can't come to pick you up. After the driver finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly. Do. Listening to the busy tone on the phone, Satan didn't have the slightest reaction. Right, wife. Satan's spirit was shaken, and his wife, who had just been pregnant for a few days, was still waiting for her triumphant return. Satan now has nothing but his wife and children. But when he got on the phone, he found that no one answered his phone. After calling more than a dozen familiar people, he finally gave up. At this moment, he finally understood what it meant to fall into a hole. No, my wife must have had an accident, or she would never have missed my call. Satan clearly remembered that his wife still stood by his side to support him when he was in the most difficult time. But without means of transportation, he could only walk towards the house on foot, and this journey lasted for 3 months. But when he got home, he found that his palace had been leveled by the government, and he had become a character that everyone shouted and beaten. But all this is not so important to Satan. After going through a lot of hardships, Satan finally found his loving wife in a dilapidated rental house. However, the 3-month wait has caused his wife to be severely overdrawn, and finally passed away after giving birth to Bidiri after insisting on it for 7 months. At the same time, 2 figures appeared at the door of Satan's small broken house. Weiss, do you think I'm being too impersonal? The god of destruction looked at Satan, who was holding the child in pain, with an extremely calm expression. Ho ha ho ho, what? The god of destruction is also sentimental. Weiss covered his mouth and laughed at the god of destruction. HMPH, I wouldn't have this kind of feeling, but maybe if I didn't expose Satan at the beginning, his family might survive happily. The god of destruction watched with deep eyes as the soul of Satan's wife flew into the underworld. The god of destruction is overthinking this. I have deduced it thousands of times when you made this decision. Even if you don't expose Satan's matter, it will be discovered in a short period of time. After all, the Earth is already it's not the ordinary planet it used to be, and his wife's lifespan has expired. The god of destruction was taken aback by Weiss' words. You still have the leisure to deduce such an old boy. God of destruction spat. Hey, professional habit. Weiss smiled awkwardly. The god of destruction ignored this kid, but directly teleported to Bowsy Mountain. Chapter 95, Piccolo after absorbing God. A year ago. The god of destruction and Whis, who had just arrived at Abu's house, instantly saw Goku being held tightly by a girl. Ah, this girl, you are holding me like this a little bit, can you let me go first? Wukong looked at Kiki who was holding him in pain. No, you promised to marry me when I grow up. Do you want to abandon me? Don't even think about it. Kiki's words instantly caused the people around to look at Wukong with a strange look. Wukong, I didn't expect you to be such a person. All the little girls came to your door. Do you still want to play tricks? Abu cursed at Wukong angrily. Even the Tianjin fans on the side changed their views on Wukong. I really don't know this little girl, what do you have to say to believe me? By the way, Lord God of Destruction, you can call the shots for me, I really don't know her. Wukong gripped his old die in distress. Yeah, it's the God of Destruction, you can decide for me, Wukong doesn't want me anymore, woo woo woo. Kiki smiled happily after seeing the god of destruction. Abu and the others couldn't recognize him anymore, and he felt abandoned. The appearance of Chi-Chi's grievance and Baba couldn't bear the sight of the god of destruction who just arrived. Speaking of which, your kid really knows her. The words of the god of destruction immediately made everyone sure that Wukong was such a ruthless person. Not only you, but Abu and Florence know her. But the next sentence of the god of destruction made Abu and the others stunned. I know her too. It's impossible. With an IQ of more than 300, I will never forget anyone I've met. Abu's proud words made the god of destruction call him a pervert. It's no wonder that ordinary people have such a high IQ that even a time machine can be created. The god of destruction, who was not in the mood to betray himself, directly revealed Chi-Chi's identity. In an instant, Abu and the others were speechless. No wonder we don't remember. Chi-Chi, isn't it a bit too much for you to be a big girl? Abu's helpless words made Kiki touch her head embarrassedly. Ah, you are Kiki. When I think about it, I seem to have promised to marry you when I grow up, but I thought a wife was delicious. Wukong rubbed his head awkwardly. Ah, are you going to marry me first? Kiki looked at Wukong with tears in her eyes. Ah, since I promised you I will do it, then I'll marry you. Wukong thought about it carefully and felt that he could not believe his words, so he agreed to Chi-Chi. Yet this was his first step into the grave of marriage. Ha ha ha, you guys, look so happy. At this moment, the sky suddenly darkened, and endless black clouds spread from the sky with a manic laughter. Everyone raised their heads and saw that the sky was surrounded by tens of millions of demons. Piccolo was surrounded by black arrogance, and Wukong actually felt a trace of God's breath in Piccolo at this time. Why did this guy Piccolo come here? Aren't you afraid of being killed? Tianjin fan snorted coldly. With Wukong and the incomparably mysterious god of destruction, if Piccolo still wanted to do something, Dewang Funny would definitely die miserably. No, Piccolo seems to be very different. This black gas seems to be the aura of his father Piccolo the Great Demon King, and Wukong said with a solemn expression. He knew that although the god of destruction and Whis and Florence who were cooking in the kitchen were powerful, they would never help the earth. Goku, can you hear me? At this moment, a voice came from the void. Huh, isn't that Mr. Bobo's voice? What are you looking for from me? Goku looked at Piccolo, who had no breath in the air with a serious face, and asked the void at the same time. It's not good. Just now, Piccolo entered the heavens and defeated and absorbed the gods. Now Piccolo has completely surpassed you. You have to be careful. Bobo said anxiously to Wukong, and sure enough, the faces of Wukong and the others who heard Bobo's words suddenly became ugly. It seems that the only way to defeat Piccolo is to use the Dragon Ball to resurrect the gods. You are so damned, Piccolo. Wukong cursed at Piccolo in the sky. Ha ha ha, son Wukong, you think too simply. You know that Dragon Ball is made by that guy from the gods, right? Since I have absorbed him, the Dragon Ball will still exist. Ha ha ha, and also, do you think you can defeat me? Piccolo sneered, exuding all his aura. Boom. The earth suddenly began to vibrate violently, and not only that, but the countless demons in the sky all smirked and flew in all directions. Countless screams came from all corners of the western capital, and countless battle sounds came from all over the world. This bit is interesting. Lord God of Destruction, actually relying on his own strength to reach 300,000 combat power, and his talent seems to be more than 10 times stronger than before. It seems that the 7th universe can have another powerful seed player. Weiss looked at Piccolo in the sky with a smile on his face. In the eyes of him and the God of Destruction, there is no difference between good and evil, and some are just contributions to the universe. Well, although this guy Bick ordered to attack the Earth, he didn't order the massacre. Instead, he kept alive if he could. It seems that the kindness in this kid's heart was inspired by the gods of the Earth. The God of Destruction also looked at Piccolo in the sky with satisfaction. This kid is definitely the most suitable ruler of the Earth in the heart of the God of Destruction. But he seems to have underestimated the bloodthirsty level of those ancient demon descendants. The whispers of Whis and the God of Destruction were not heard by anyone, but if someone observed carefully, they would find that Piccolo's face in the sky was a little ugly. HMPH, beasts or beasts. They can't even understand human words. It seems that they need to be rectified. But at the moment, we still have to solve Sun Wukong first. Otherwise, the variables of this person are too great. Thinking of this, Piccolo grabbed the void, and an invisible energy instantly imprisoned Sun Wukong in front of him. Damn, what happened? Goku, who felt that he couldn't move, hurriedly struggled, but he couldn't break through Piccolo's imprisonment at all. What's wrong with you, Wukong? Goku, are you alright? Goku. Abu Tianjin Fan shouted anxiously. But Tianjin Fan quickly compared his hand to a prism. Go to hell, Piccolo, Qigong Cannon. With the roar of Tianjin Fan, an invisible energy hit Piccolo instantly. Piccolo frowned. Humph. A terrifying cold snort erupted from Piccolo's mouth, instantly dispelling Tianjin Fan's Qigong Cannon. Damn, the strength gap is too big. Tianjin Fan's anxious words made the hearts of Abu and several people fall to the bottom. At this moment, Abu thought of the God of Destruction beside him. By the way, God of Destruction, you. Who knew that he was interrupted before he finished speaking? Don't even think about it, I refuse. Chapter 96, The Tortoise Immortal Who Broke Out. Just kidding, his God of Destruction is a dignified God of Destruction, but he is not their thug. He can help with some things beyond their ability, but such an enemy whose strength gap is not too big has to do it himself. Are you kidding me? What, God of Destruction, you are too stingy. Abu complained, but the God of Destruction was unmoved. It happened that Florence had already brought out the food, and Wes and the God of Destruction had already entered the restaurant in the blink of an eye. Humph, I ran away again, and I knew that the God of Destruction was unreliable. Abu spat, and then looked anxiously into the sky. At this time, Goku had been caught in the air by Piccolo using his telekinesis. And his huge aura made Chi-Chi on the ground unable to fly even if they wanted to go up and help. Damn, the gap in strength is really too big, what exactly should we do? Tianjin Fan anxiously thought of a way in his mind. Yeah Tianjin, Wukong's strength is more than 10 times weaker than Piccolo, such a big gap can't be made up in a short time. Dumpling said dejectedly. However, just after Dumpling's words were finished, Abu's eyes suddenly lit up. 10 times the gap. Great, there is a way. Can you guys delay for a few minutes, just a few minutes? Abu excitedly said to the Tianjin fans. It's a pity that after hearing Abu's words, Tianjin fans' face suddenly became ugly. No, Abu, we can't even hold on for a minute. Looking at the expressions of the Tianjin fans, Abu suddenly became anxious. Super. Turtle School Qigong. Suddenly, a vigorous voice burst out from afar, and then a dazzling light shot straight from the horizon. What? Piccolo's expression changed when he was caught off guard. Although this attack only had a combat power of about 100,000, it was no longer easy for him to deal with. There was no other way. Piccolo could only smash Wukong in his hand towards the ground, and a ball of light condensed in his hand, which also charged towards the Super Turtle Qigong that came over. Boom! After the same loud explosion, the two attacks suddenly disappeared into the air. And Wukong also slammed on the ground, smashing the ground out into a huge pothole. PFF'd. 1 inch. A large mouthful of blood spurted out of Wukong's mouth, and his bones were almost completely shattered. Goku! Chi-Chi let out a shrill cry, and immediately rushed towards Wukong. Tianjin Fan and the others also rushed towards the place where Wukong fell. Only Abu ran towards his laboratory at home. Come out, old man, I know you just did it. Piccolo in the sky looked at an open space not far away. I saw the turtle immortal with Kaylin appearing on the open space. At this time, the turtle immortal's muscles stronger than Schwarzenegger made Kaylin look very envious. Haha, Vic, are you surprised to see me? My old man hasn't settled with you at that time. Immortal Turtle clenched his fists, and his combat power reaching 100,000 was vented from his body like a wild beast. Ho ho ho, Wu Tian's talent is not bad. If it's been delayed for hundreds of years, otherwise his strength will definitely be much stronger than it is now. Weiss eats Florence's love lunch while watching the muscular turtle fairy. Well, Earth's martial arts talent is indeed very high, but there is not enough chi and enough martial arts experience, otherwise it will be at least a high-level planet. The god of destruction ate a steak and nodded in agreement. The so-called high-level planet is a planet with a maximum combat power of more than 10,000, and most of the people living on the planet have a combat power of more than 1,000. Just like the Prince planet was a high-level planet a few decades ago, this kind of planet is in the universe. All are very powerful planets. However, the advanced combat power of the Earth has reached the level of a super planet, and if it continues to develop at this speed, it will definitely reach a super planet before the final assessment. The god of destruction is convinced of this. Although this planet is not the Earth of the previous life, just like his name, the god of destruction will bring him to the peak of the universe. But I just don't know why God of Destruction cares so much about such a small planet, although this planet seems to be a little different. Weiss, deep eyes made the God of Destruction smile. Would you believe me if I said I was from Earth? The God of Destruction's meaningful words made Weiss stunned for a moment. Ho ho ho, the God of Destruction is joking, but I watched you grow up. When I was a child, I even changed the diapers for you. I still don't know where you came from. Of course, Weiss didn't believe the god of destruction, and his smug laughter made the god of destruction go dark. If you tell me this again, I promise, I will shave all your hair. The god of destruction spoke to Weiss viciously, so scared that Weiss quickly stopped his laughter. Really, it's not enough to talk about it, the god of destruction has really changed. Weiss ate his food in a big gulp while complaining to the god of destruction. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, Kaylin, you are here. Wukong, who had recovered to health after eating the fairy beans, touched his head embarrassedly and said to the turtle fairy. You boy, if you hadn't come to save you, you'd be dead already. Immortal Turtle said something to Wukong in a sullen mood, and then looked at Piccolo in the sky with solemn eyes. By the way, Abu Sa'id let us hold on for a few minutes and she would have a solution, but I think it's a bit unreliable. Wukong heard everything when he was imprisoned, but he scratched his head and said he didn't believe it. Boom. Ah! After a muffled voice, Wukong hugged his head and screamed. Grandpa Turtle Immortal, why are you beating me on the head? Wukong asked the Turtle Immortal aggrievedly. HMPH, even a guy whose IQ is not at the normal level dares to question Abu. Hurry up and work, otherwise you won't know how you will die. Turtle Immortal's words made everyone look at Piccolo in the sky with solemn expressions. You finally discussed it, what? Now you have decided to go together, come on and let you know what the difference in strength is. Piccolo snorted coldly, and black arrogance emerged from his body. Together. After the Turtle Immortal shouted solemnly, a group of people rose into the sky and rushed towards Piccolo. However, Piccolo's strength is too much stronger than what everyone thinks, and a group of people is still defeated by Piccolo's destructive power. Only the Turtle Immortal held up for a while after all the strength broke out. Boom! However, after a roar, Immortal Turtle smashed to the ground from the air, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Just when everyone was desperate, a clear voice came from Abu's house. Keep everyone waiting. Chapter 97, Giant Ape Transformation. Piccolo blew himself up. Before everyone could react, they felt an invisible wave shoot in this direction. Florence, who was serving the god of destruction in a restaurant not far away, frowned and looked in this direction. Brut's light wave. It seemed that she remembered something, and Florence smiled slightly at the corner of her mouth. And this light wave instantly hit Wukong, who was seriously injured on the ground at the speed of light. Hope it works. Not far away, Abu was driving a radar-similar instrument to watch Wukong, who was not far away, pray silently. Ah! At this moment, Wukong, who was irradiated, suddenly screamed. I saw Piccolo, who had been waiting impatiently, swooped down and stomped on Goku's chest. I have no intention of making you enemies, but since you killed my father, as a son, I will definitely avenge him. If you want to resent it, resent why you are Son Wukong's companions. Piccolo snorted coldly and raised the tip of his right finger to condense a magic cannon, and he was about to understand Son Wukong. Damn, stop it, Piccolo. Hurry up, your father's death was obviously brought about by himself, how can you blame us? The Guaxianren shouted and hoped that Piccolo would be merciful, but Piccolo just snorted coldly. The magic bullet at the tip of the finger crashed down. Roar! The light instantly penetrated Son Wukong's chest, but the screams in his imagination did not come out, but a terrifying beast roar burst out from Wukong's mouth. What? Piccolo's expression changed, because the Monkey King under his feet made him feel uncontrollable. Impossible, your combat power is only 50,000, how can you escape from my feet? Piccolo roared, the strength under his feet suddenly increased, and he wanted to suppress Wukong again, but what shocked him was that not only did the resistance under his feet increase, but Wukong's appearance and forehead began to change rapidly. It's not good that Wukong is going to turn into a gorilla. It's impossible, there is no full moon here. Immortal Turtle, who was familiar with Wukong's hidden power, changed dramatically, and hurriedly struggled to lift up the comatose dumpling Chi-Chi, and called Tianjin Fan and Kaylin to run towards the god of destruction. Teacher Wu Tian, what happened? Arriving under the eaves of Abu's house, Wu Tian breathed a sigh of relief. With the protection of the god of destruction, Piccolo couldn't make any waves no matter how powerful he was. Ha ha ha, this is the way I told you to beat Piccolo. Abu walked over from the side and said proudly to the crowd. What? Wukong actually has this ability. But what will happen to his strength after he turns into a gorilla? Tianjin Fan asked Abu in surprise. It was the first time he had heard of such a thing. It's a gift for us Saiyans to become gorillas. Every time the moon is full, we Saiyans will become gorillas, and the fighting power will be increased tenfold. Of course, like Kakarot Saiyans without special training lose their minds when they turn into gorillas. Quote. Florence watched Goku, who had gradually turned into a gorilla, and began to explain to Abu and the others. Losing your mind, that means he might attack us after he beats Piccolo. Tianjin Fan's expression changed, but now is not the time to discuss this. Wukong, who is not far away, has completely turned into a giant ape with a height of tens of meters and hair like steel needles. Roar. A huge roar spread throughout the western capital. The humans and demons who were still fighting in the western capital all looked in this direction. The gorilla Wukong waved his hand, and a wave of air instantly destroyed all the nearby houses like an overwhelming sea. As soon as he stepped on it, the ground suddenly began to vibrate. HMPH, wild monkeys are wild monkeys, and becoming gorillas is even more savage. Piccolo snorted disdainfully, and then felt his body tighten suddenly. When he came back to his senses, he found that he had been pinched tightly by a huge hand. What a fast speed! Piccolo thought that Goku's giant ape transformation was just as powerful as his own, but he didn't expect his speed to increase. Damn, what's going on here? After a day of hard work, Piccolo found that he couldn't get out at all. After scolding, Piccolo began to swell up rapidly. No, Vic is going to blow himself up. Turtle Immortal frowned. Isn't it? You just want to blow yourself up after being caught. Isn't this Piccolo so vulnerable? Kaylin's helpless words made the Tianjin fans nodded again and again. He must have some plans. Everyone is ready, don't let him run away. Although I don't know what Vic is going to do, Immortal Turtle thinks it's better to be cautious. At this moment, the giant ape also seemed to sense a trace of danger, and hurriedly stretched out his other hand to slap Piccolo to death. Ha ha ha, want to kill me? It's too late, go to hell. Boom. Unexpectedly, Piccolo instantly turned into a dazzling ball of light after laughing wildly. After a huge roar, the entire West instantly disappeared on the Earth's territory. Only a huge deep pit was left, and in the deep pit was the Abu family's Universal Capsule Company, which was still standing still and stopped in place. Ho 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 ho, these friends of Abu are really irritable, they are all ruined. Mother Abu, who was sitting not far from the god of destruction, drinking tea, smiled nervously. Seeing the turtle immortals on the side, the cold sweat was pouring down. Abu, your mother is an amazing person. Keelan smiled helplessly at Abu. You are still in the mood to take care of this, hurry up and find Wukong. Immortal Turtle cursed angrily, and everyone woke up. No, Wukong won't be fried to ashes if he disappears. Krillin's words made the expressions of several people change immediately. It shouldn't be. Although Piccolo's strength is strong, it won't blow up Goku in one go. There may be something we didn't notice. Immortal Turtle's sunglasses flashed a gleam, and then he suddenly stretched out his hand toward the deep pit not far away. The shocking palm of all nations. A bolt of lightning shot out from Immortal Turtle's hand and hit a raised mass in an instant. Roar. After a shocking roar, a huge figure rose into the sky. Ha ha ha, let me just say, this kid Wukong won't die. Immortal Turtle stroked his beard and laughed, and his skills just now made Tianjin rice dumplings and Kaylin stunned. By the way, Piccolo is definitely not dead. Everyone, take a good look around. If you see Piccolo, attack directly. Goku who is bombed must want to tear Piccolo apart now. Immortal Turtle's solemn words made several people nodded quickly. Suddenly, a green figure in the distance shot over like a bolt of lightning. HMPH, a wild monkey is a wild monkey, and it actually cost me a clone. If that's the case, let you die. Chapter 98, Lao Su snapped his fingers. When Piccolo's figure stopped completely, the faces of the Immortal Turtles completely changed. How is it possible? How can Piccolo's power be so much stronger than before? Teacher Wu Tian, what do you think Piccolo's combat power is at least? Keelan and Tianjin Fan frowned at Piccolo who had just arrived. How do I know that his strength has far surpassed me by too much? I think there should be no way for Wukong to defeat him now. Immortal Turtle's solemn words made the people around him sink to the bottom of the valley. In the sky, Piccolo, who was wearing a white cloak and a cloth-wrapped hat, glanced at the giant ape that was attacking him frantically. Forcing my avatar, which has half my power, to self-destruct, it seems that you, a wild monkey, have some ability. After falling into darkness, he forcibly merged with the god Piccolo's combat power at this time, which directly hit 600,000. He didn't come in person just now, but he was adapting to his sudden expansion of power. Roar! The giant ape that rushed in front of Piccolo roared, and then slapped Piccolo. Piccolo raised his right hand expressionlessly and caught the giant palm of the giant ape. Immediately, Piccolo exerted a little force on his hand. The entire body of the giant ape was suddenly thrown up uncontrollably. Boom boom boom. A roar spread throughout the western capital, and the demons and citizens who had not died in the explosion of Piccolo's clone just looked at this direction in fear. At the same time, they all started to run into the distance, fearing that Piccolo would explode again, and they would definitely not be able to support it by then. It's not good. Wukong can't take it anymore when he turns into a giant ape. This is what happened. Abu has nothing to do. She has long thought about the trick of Goku transforming into a giant ape. Who knows that Bic has no effect now? Woman over there, shine the bruise light on me. At this moment, an icy voice in the sky made the immortal turtles look sideways. Everyone looked up and saw the prince and the recovered rabbits. Why are you here? Do you want to get in trouble? Immortal Turtle stepped out, and the exploding muscles on his body exuded a terrifying power, making the two princes in the sky look ugly. After listening to the prince, he didn't say much, just snorted coldly. HMPH, I just don't want to owe Kakarot a favor, can you take it? If you don't, just hold his body and be happy when he dies. The prince just didn't want to consume his own strength to get the artificial moon, because his combat power after returning from the brink of death is now only over 50,000. And Raditz has not yet reached the level where he can create an artificial moon, so he can only turn to Abu. Abu, let him try it, a Saiyan prince will not owe a favor. The cold voice of Florence not far away made Abu and the others stunned. Shaolun, are you sure this person is reliable? Abu asked suspiciously. Go on, he'll do as he says. As Florence's best friend, it was the first time Abu heard the other party believe in a person so much. Okay. Despite his doubts, Abu hurriedly ran to his radar-like machine. After some operations, an invisible ray instantly hit the prince. Come on. The prince looked serious, and his whole body began to swell in an instant. Roar. After a roar, a giant ape in a silver battle suit roared and charged towards Piccolo in the sky. The so-called enemies were extremely jealous when they met, and Piccolo was instantly furious after seeing the prince's clothes. Damn dead monkey, I want you to die. After smashing the dying Goku to the ground, Piccolo punched the prince with his fist the size of a casserole. Take advantage of it now, Tianjin rice will give me fairy beans. Immortal Turtle quickly took a fairy bean from Tianjin Fan and threw it into Wukong's mouth from a distance. A second later, Goku, who turned into a giant ape, suddenly opened his eyes, roaring and killing Piccolo in the sky. Of course, losing his mind, he even fights with the prince. And where the prince would let Wukong attack, he also started to fight together. The people on the ground looking at the three people fighting in the sky are extremely anxious. If this goes on, they will definitely lose. Hey, I want to sleep when I'm full. It's just that these three people are too annoying. At this moment, a lazy voice came from behind Abu and the others. God of Destruction, are you ready to eat? Abu quickly asked the God of Destruction. Well, Florence's cooking is not bad, but I just want to sleep now. The God of Destruction said with a calm expression, and looked towards the three huge figures who were playing happily in the sky. Piccolo, like the two princes, turned into a giant in order to show his lofty and mighty power. Oops! God of Destruction, look at Piccolo, what happened to this place? The house we used to live in was destroyed. Weiss, sad look made Abu give a thumbs up. Huh, it's still worth it. I dare to move my things. I'm afraid this kid is tired of living. After speaking, the God of Destruction raised his finger while yawning. As soon as his fingers moved, a finger-snapping sound reached everyone's ears, and the three huge figures in the sky stopped moving instantly. But Piccolo's body was still slowly turning into ashes, layers of flesh detached from his body. Frightened, he couldn't even utter a word, and could only watch his body slowly disappear. Hey! What a powerful god of destruction! No wonder even the Valkyrie dare not disobey his orders. Yeah, Tianjin, we should not go against the Lord God of Destruction in the future. The two Tianjin fans looked at the scene in the sky with disbelief. Piccolo, who was so powerful, was going to die without any resistance at all. By the way, the gods of the earth seem to be absorbed by you, and it seems that they can't kill you yet. The god of destruction suddenly remembered something, and then the movement of his hand changed slightly, and Piccolo, who was still half of the sky, was instantly torn apart by an invisible giant force. Piccolo, who was torn in half, wriggled and turned into two green figures. Me, am I resurrected? The god of God looked at his hands in disbelief, but after seeing the god of destruction on the ground, he immediately knew what had just happened. After thanking him for a while, the god of destruction flicked his fingers, and Piccolo flew towards his hometown of the Devil's Gate like a missile. Ha! I'm so sleepy, we're going home with Wes. A wave of green energy from the god of destruction instantly spread all over the earth. All the places that were destroyed by demons and destroyed by Piccolo's self-destruction were restored to their original state in an instant, that is, everyone who died was resurrected. The god of destruction and Weiss had already left Abu's house while the turtle immortals were still stunned. The god of destruction is really a god. Chapter 99, Brawly. In the endless starry sky, on a green planet, an ordinary small bamboo house stands in a jungle. A figure sitting cross-legged in front of the bamboo house closed his eyes and practiced. Boom! After a huge roar, a flash of lightning flashed in the sky, and then a tall figure crashed to the ground. I've seen Mrs. Layla. The tall figure was none other than Kurd, who had just recovered from being crippled by Brawly. How is it? Has the Emperor of the Universe started to practice? Layla, the god of the Western realm, raised her eyelids and looked at the variant of the frozen demon family that she had spent hundreds of years transforming. That kid is still like that, he's not motivated at all. He can surpass me with a little practice, but he's just lazy. Kurd shook his head helplessly. I have long thought that the more talented a living being is, the more insurmountable inertia exists in his blood. This is the case with the Realm King and the God of Destruction. Only after experiencing despair can someone break this inertia. Quote. Saying that, Layla stood up slowly and looked into the starry sky. I haven't returned to the Realm King God realm for 1,000 years. I just don't know how this kid, the Eastern Realm King God, is under the guidance of the old Realm King God. For the Eastern Realm King God, Layla is almost helpless. Kaiwangshan are generally lazy about repairs, but to the extent of Shin's laziness, it can be said that it is unprecedented. Part of the reason why Layla came out of the King of God's realm was because she felt that she and Shin had no future in hiding in the King of God's realm, so she came out to find her own way. 1,000 years have passed, and now Layla can win even if she encounters the demon Boo who did not devour the great Realm King, but every time she thinks of the God of Destruction pressing on them, Layla is not in the mood to return to the realm of the Realm King. By the way, Lord Layla, decades ago, the God of Destruction found me and asked me to help him destroy some planets. He seemed to see that I became powerful because of you. Kurd looked at Layla uneasily, for fear that the other party would trouble him because of this matter. It doesn't matter, Lord Destruction God's strength is far higher than mine. It's normal for him to see through your strength, but I don't know why he wants you to destroy other planets. No matter what Lyra thought about it, she couldn't figure out why the God of Destruction did this. If she knew that the God of Destruction was simply lazy, I wonder if she would be pissed off. Hey, does the God of Destruction think that I am very good and want to teach me the position of the God of Destruction? Kurd's shameless smile made Layla roll her eyes. Your kid's face is thicker than your grandfather's grandfather, your frozen demon clan is really a virtue. And at this moment, a contemptuous voice came from next to Layla. Layla shuddered when she heard the voice. The two looked towards the source of the voice and found that it was indeed the god of destruction and the smiling Wiz standing there. God of destruction, why are you here? Kurd was startled and hurriedly saluted the god of destruction. I have seen the god of destruction. Layla frowned and said hello to the god of destruction. God of the Western realm, I need your help recently with something. The god of destruction looked at the rebellious girl in front of him indifferently. God of destruction, please speak. Under the gaze of the god of destruction, a trace of crystal sweat flowed from Lila's forehead. You don't have to worry, I won't do anything to you, it's just a little thing that needs your help. God of destruction is speechless, isn't he serious? It was necessary to look like he was going to die. No, I'm just a little nervous seeing the mighty body of the god of destruction. Layla smiled awkwardly, and Kurd, who was beside him, saw that his master was so afraid of the god of destruction and couldn't help but feel grateful for his wise actions. Well, your vision is not bad. Well, I have a boy here that you need to train. I will give you 10 years, and after 10 years I need to see a warrior stronger than you. With that, the god of destruction waved, and a sleeping boy appeared in front of Layla. The boy's frowning brows made him look as if something was worrying about him. As this kid? When the boy first appeared, Kurd's eyes widened. Kurd, do you know who this is? Lyra felt the violent power in the boy's body, and couldn't help being horrified. The boy's growth ring was only 18 cosmic years, and his strength was far greater than that of the Kurdish king who he had cultivated for nearly 1,000 years. Master, this is the legendary Super Saiyan who severely injured me a few years ago. That kid from the Emperor of the Universe also cultivated well for a few days because he was beaten. Our father and son have been looking for him for nearly 10 years, but we didn't expect it to be in the hands of the god of destruction. Kurd said embarrassedly to Layla, after all, it is not an honorable thing to be beaten and almost killed by a young brat. It's actually the legendary Super Saiyan that has been seen once in 1,000 years, no wonder. Layla suddenly, as Kai Wang Shen, of course she knows what is going on with the legendary Super Saiyan. God of destruction is too high level, so he doesn't pay attention to this level of life form, but for Kai Wang Shen, it is super. Existence has always been a headache for them. After all, there will be such Super Saiyans every 1,000 years. Although they cannot escape the fact that they are destroyed in the end, the damage they cause is incomparable. It's good to know his identity. This generation of ordinary Super Saiyans has not grown up yet. All you have to do is to cultivate him into a powerful fighting machine. As for what happens in the future, it depends on his own creation. God of Destruction glanced at Brawley, who was sleeping, and said that the boy did not rescue his father under his own intervention, so he has been wandering in the stars since he was a child. Because the legendary Super Saiyan has the ability to survive in the universe, this kid who likes to destroy has survived until now. Nurture him. Layla frowned, feeling a little embarrassed. You don't need to teach him any advanced skills, you just need to let him grow in endless battles. In 10 years, it shouldn't be difficult for him to surpass you. After the god of destruction finished speaking, he tapped Brawley, who was sleeping, with his fingertips. After a few seconds, Brawley opened his eyes slowly. Who are you? After seeing so many people around, Brawley's eyes showed a trace of unease, but before the rampage, he just asked a question with a gentle nature. Broly, right, you're living with me on this planet from today. Chapter 100. 6 years. In a big mountain, an explosive-headed man in an orange-red martial arts uniform stood in front of a big tree. Suddenly, the man suddenly opened his eyes. Drink. Quote. Boom. The man suddenly punched, and the forest in front of him was instantly punched into a huge pothole. The original trees in the forest are broken pieces of wood that have turned into ashes. Alas, the strength doesn't seem to have improved much. The man with the explosive head scratched his head helplessly. Forget it, I don't know if Kiki has made something delicious. The man with the explosive head is Wukong, who is married. At this time, it has been 6 years since the last time the princes came to Earth. During these 6 years, Wukong will go to the world's first martial arts conference every year. What made him aggrieved was that he was the second place in the world's #1 martial arts conference every year. The first place is always an old man named Jackie Chan. That old man is too perverted. At this time, Wukong's strength has reached about 1 million, but every time he encounters the old man's clothes, he is hanged and beaten. Wukong picked up the broken wood that fell from the sky and flew straight towards the house. From a distance, Wukong saw a flattened open space on Baozi Mountain. A huge square was located above the open space, and a domed house stood in the center of the square. Drink. Ha! In the distance, Wukong heard a child's cry. Hey, Gohan is still training, he really deserves to be my son, ha ha ha. Seeing Gohan sweating like rain in the square, Wukong smiled gratified. Hey, Gohan, take a rest, it's almost time to eat. At this moment, a beautiful young woman walked out of the dome. The young woman held a spatula in her hand and smiled and called to Gohan, who was training on the square. Got it, Mom. Gohan put away his aura and replied obediently to the young woman. Suddenly he raised his head and looked towards the sky. Hey, Dad, are you back? The young woman also raised her head just to see Wukong falling from the sky. Her face suddenly sank. Wukong, I just heard an explosion, say. Did you destroy the trees again? Goku was taken aback by Kiki's anger. Kiki, this is an accident. An accident. When will it be cut off one by one? I'm still in a hurry to come back for dinner. Wukong's explanation not only did not relieve Chi-Chi, but made Chi-Chi even more angry. I know I'm lazy. Look at Gohan. You start to practice when you wake up early in the morning. You, a father, sleeps until 11 or 2 every day, and you don't look like a role model at all. Can I trust you to teach Gohan the martial arts? Since God of Destruction's martial arts review road opened, the entire universe has fallen into a state of frenzied cultivation. Although God of Destruction has gradually lowered the requirements for the assessment since 5 years ago, this has not reduced the cultivation of any life planet in the slightest. Positivity. The Earth has also set up a school to cultivate students' martial arts and basic culture. The difference from the original book is that Chi-Chi not only does not oppose Gohan's learning of martial arts, but also strongly supports it. After all, Gohan's master is that adult. Chi-Chi, you don't know. I haven't gotten stronger in 2 years since my strength reached this level. I don't know what's going on, but my strength just can't improve. I have no choice but to pass the time like this. Slightly. Wukong's helpless words made Chi-Chi frown. Oh, forget it, let's eat first. Chi-Chi sighed and called the 2 father and son to walk towards the house. Oh, eating. Looks like we're here just in time, Weiss. Suddenly a voice came from the void, and the Wukong family who heard the voice turned their heads quickly. Ho 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 ho, God of Destruction is really lucky, you can always pinch it. Weiss said with a smile. The God of Destruction, Master. The Wukong family of 3 cried out in surprise. That's right, the people here are the God of Destruction and Whis, and Gohan's master is also the God of Destruction. On the eve of Gohan's birth, the God of Destruction suddenly had a dream. He dreamed that a young man in a martial arts uniform of a turtle immortal would defeat a man of the God of Destruction level with his own strength, and this person looked very similar to Goku, and this person has not changed in any way. Although I don't know why I have this dream, the God of Destruction has roughly guessed the identity of this person. That is the mysterious Gohan above the Power Conference, the Gohan who has fully developed his potential. Ha ha ha, the 2 of us came uninvited, don't you mind? The God of Destruction's smile made the 3 of them feel like a spring breeze. How is it possible? The God of Destruction is our honored guest, how can you mind, ah ha ha. Goku rubbed his head and smiled. On the side, Kiki suddenly changed her expression. Boom. Ah, Kiki, why are you hitting me? Wukong held his head and was aggrieved like a fat man weighing 200 pounds. What nonsense. How could Lord Destruction and Lord Weiss be guests? They are our family. Goku smiled awkwardly when Gigi hated that iron could not become steel. As Gohan's master, it would not be an exaggeration to say that the god of destruction and the others were a family. Ho ho ho, Kiki, just spare the kid Wukong, it's good for him to say this politely. Weiss said with a smile, and waved to Gohan at the same time. With Wes, Kiki spared Goku. Just in time, we are about to have dinner. In order to take care of the two big stomach kings, Wukong and Wufan, I cook food for 20 people every time. Kiki happily ran over and grabbed Wes's hand. The two of them walked towards the kitchen of the room chatting and laughing. Master, let's go in too. 5-year-old Gohan also happily took the hand of the god of destruction and walked into the kitchen. Wukong also wanted to go in while rubbing his growling stomach. Suddenly, Chi-Chi walked to the gate with a serious face and stopped Wukong, who wanted to enter the house. Today's food is not enough, you go grab the dinosaur first, remember to cook it half-cooked before sending it back. After speaking, Chi-Chi closed the door, leaving only Wukong with a confused look at the door. Helpless, the wife did not dare not listen. A few minutes later, Wukong returned home with a tens of meters high dinosaur that was directly cooked by the turtle Qigong. It took 5 people more than 3 hours to finish a meal, and the dinosaur didn't last long before it was wiped out by the 4 big stomach kings except Kiki. Wow, I'm so full. Kiki, your cooking skills are getting better and better. The god of destruction kept praising him while picking his teeth. Yes, mom's cooking is the best. Gohan said proudly as he licked his plate. Thank you for your compliment, but there is something I want to ask. This time, the god of destruction should have something to say. Chi-Chi smiled happily, and then asked the god of destruction suspiciously. After all, the god of destruction can go to the 3 treasures hall without incident. Chi-Chi's words made Wukong and his son quickly look at the god of destruction in confusion. Well, yes, I do have something to say, but this matter will temporarily break up your family. To be continued.